My taxes.
And they had millions and millions and
Yeah,
millions
pay-
of dollars of public
had to pay the business
participation to
tax.
make this work. So, okay, that's not happening.
No,
This is not,
architectural value of the
this is
building
not
is
art,
not there.
not art deco,
There you go,
this
Jerry.
is like,
It's like
like a
communist.
I call to order this Grand Haven City Council special work session. We've got a couple items on our agenda this morning, but I think we need to call the roll, even though it doesn't say so on the list, but let's do it anyway.
Vanessa,
Here.
Kruger,
Here.
Scott,
Here.
Fritz,
Here.
and Caleb.
Here, we have two items. Oh, you want to go back to that because my, where's that first page? Hang on, 1 second. First is a presentations of our annual service plans. So instead of, you know, as Pat said, they're in our budget, but there's a lot of work that goes into these, and sometimes they just get overlooked. So we're going to have these presentations of our service plans to say what exactly the city does in its various departments. And so that's going to be the subject of our first work session item. So I don't know if each person's going to come up and make their presentation. Pat, how do have you?
Well, we're going to go 5 minutes each. I'm going to set a timer. They get to go and in 5 minutes or less tell you what it is they do in their department and just a quick overview of what's in your packet. By the way, the very elegant document that's in your packet tonight is Ashley Latch's rework of the service plans from the budget, much more attractive and presentable. So if it's a little too fast tonight, you can always catch up and read it. And for those people listening or watching at home, go ahead to our website and look at the agenda, and you'll be able to follow along and see these service plans very detailed. So I didn't count that against your time, Jim.
Oh, thanks, Pat. Appreciate that. Do I get 10 minutes because I got 2 items I have to deal with?
5 minutes, sir.
5 is it. Even better.
You got the bell.
I've been representing finance and treasury for the city for about 24 years. So all I can tell you is if it has to deal with money, I'm knowledgeable, or I have staff that's knowledgeable. It's just what we do up the stairs. But because everything deals with money, it gives the finance office an unusual viewpoint of what's going on, what decisions are made, what processes happen, and what things carry on from there. We deal with accounting. Accounting deals with reporting. We deal with verification of accounts. We deal with grant support. Treasury deals with cash management, tax and utility billing, banking and investments. And then, if I can read my writing, we've got presentations to boards, commissions, staff, management, city council, the county of Ottawa, the state of Michigan, and the federal government. Keeps us busy. But everything actually, if I could really narrow down what is it that finance does, it's that we set the premise to say 2 things. 1, this is what we want to do, and 2, we then report on what we did. And I think that's an important thing to take into consideration. While we are sitting behind the scenes or upstairs on the 2nd floor, or you know, we're just not visible as the other departments are, thank goodness for me, but that's a whole nother thing. It's something that we are involved with all the time. So I'm in daily contact with the department heads, even with some of the regular staff members. There's always something happening that needs some background and some additional support, and that's what we do. We take care of those numerical records. Actually, we do that in part in conjunction with the city clerk and the city treasurer's office, of course, under my jurisdiction. So that's all I'm really planning on saying. Pat said it was supposed to be short and sweet, so I think I'm under my 5 minutes.
All right, well, thanks
Yep.
thanks a lot. Oh, there it is.
Hey, the only thing we're missing is graphs.
Oh, okay. Well, just one for the road. All right,
Thank you.
I'm up next.
next up.
That's weird. I'm not going to be able to hide behind my computer.
Should we hold it up for you?
Okay, mine is about the city clerk's office and also includes the elections portion of the department. We are the city clerk, 1 administrative assistant, and then I have 1 opening right now for a part-time administrative aide. We have many customers. We have city council, city manager, city departments and employees, boards and commissions, which there are about 24, media, public at large, Grand Haven area public schools, Ottawa County, and the state of Michigan. We're the custodian of all the permanent records for the city, and we provide informational services to all of the city customers. And I serve also as the city's Freedom of Information Act coordinator. Many of the city records have been scanned into an electronic file system. It's called Laserfiche, and it allows us for storage, search, and retrieval, including minutes, deeds, contracts and agreements, plans and studies, street and alley vacations, legal opinions, and policies, and a lot more stuff in there too. A lot of miscellaneous. We're responsible for posting notices for city council, city departments, and boards and commissions. We receive applications for licenses and permits, and we issue those for bed and breakfast, metal detectors, auctioneers, building wreckers, pedicabs, vendors, transient merchants, junk dealers, and going out of business licenses. And we also handle insurance claims for and against the city. We maintain the board and commission's membership lists and rosters, and we coordinate the annual dinner to honor the city's volunteers. And then we provide administrative services for city, state, federal, and state school elections, and including voter registration records maintained through the state of Michigan's voter registration file, hiring election inspectors, coordinating testing and moving of equipment, supply preparation, absentee ballot application and ballot issuance, election day administration, and post-election tabulations and audits. And the city employs approximately 52 election inspectors to work at the polling places. And our funds for the office include for our wages, health insurance, employee benefits, and other costs for continued services. And these services are electronic access to the Code of Ordinances internally and via the internet, electronic and paper cemetery records, scanning and indexing permanent records, and the administration of efficient, well-run, accurate elections. That's it.
Thank you.
You wonder what keeps Linda busy? There's a list. All right, human resources.
In the packet of information that you have, there's an error. It's my fault, so I thought I'd let you know right off the top. There's a graph in that information, I believe, and the number of city department employees is incorrect. It should be 142. I think it says 170 something. I'm not sure how I miscounted, but when I looked at the number today, verifying that my remarks were accurate, I thought, yeah, that number's not right. So I recounted. So if you would change your record, I would appreciate that. When I came to Human Resources, when I came to the city of Grand Haven and I interviewed with Jim Bonamy and Pat McGinnis, they asked me what I thought I could bring to the city of Grand Haven, and I said to them, my philosophy of human resources is this. Human resources is the voice of management. Human resources is the voice of the people. And human resources is the conduit between the two. And I have spent the last 10 plus years working towards that goal, and I believe that for the most part, I have been successful. I think that's the job of human resources. There are times when I have to be management's voice, and I have to explain to our employees what we're doing and why we're doing it. And I do that with as much honesty and openness as I can. I take City Council's goal of total transparency to heart, and I speak to the employees as they want to hear. It's not always the answer they want, but I give them the information that they want to hear, that they've asked for, and the real answer, not the politically correct answer. There are times when, quite frankly, as management, we need to listen to our people. And I listen extremely well and often to what our people are saying and to what they're not saying, but wish someone would hear anyway. And I spend a lot of time doing that as well. It's, again, not always the message management wants to hear, but someone needs to speak on behalf of both groups, and that's my role. I have an enviable position as the human resource manager because more than almost anyone else in the organization, I have a chance to be inside every single department and to truly understand what the people in that department do and what they bring to the city, their unique contribution. And I take that role extremely seriously, and I believe it's my responsibility to share that with everyone. So if you're looking for what is my greatest achievement in my 10 years that I've been here, it would be our new employee orientation program. I identify every employee who was hired in the past calendar year, and I put them together in groups. This year we had a little over 30 people who were hired in 2018. I split them into 3 groups of 10, and every month those 3 groups go to a different department. And the department head or a member of their team meets with those new employees and explains exactly what happens in that department. I have received more positive feedback about that particular program than about anything else we have done in my 10+ years at the city. It is extremely exciting to hear people who have an office job explain that they didn't understand how critically important Harbor Transit was to our community. It's extremely important and impressive and fun to hear Harbor Transit drivers say, I wondered what the heck those DPW trucks were doing all over town. And now I understand that they're actually divided into separate groups, and some are working on utilities, and some are working on streets, and some are grounds. Unless you get a chance to actually be in the department and learn that from the people who are in the department, you don't understand it and you don't appreciate it. And I believe that our greatest resource are the humans that work for us, and our greatest PR are our employees, who can tell their circle of friends and family what it means to be a member of the city of Grand Haven. Not just what it means to work in their job, but what it means to be a part of that team. And so that new employee orientation has been an extremely beneficial program to the employees, actually to the department people who get a chance to cover that information with a group of new employees, and I believe to our citizens as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Next is planning and community development.
Good evening, Jennifer Howland with the Community Development Department. Our department gets to do a lot of fun stuff. We focus on the private property side of the city. So whereas Public Works handles all of the publicly owned land, which you're going to hear from Derek soon, our department handles everything that the private citizens own. So you come to our department if you want to put up a shed in your backyard, or build a fence, or build your dream home, or finally move into that space down the street to start your own business. We help people do all of those things. Some of the details that we get into in our department, we enforce the codes, so we make sure that everybody gets to follow the same rules and gets an idea of how to be a good neighbor. We try to keep a beautiful city, and Public Works does an amazing job on the public property, and our department helps all of our property owners stay on task with that as well. So we have a beautiful community, and our department really loves working with those private property owners to help their dreams come true, really. We work directly with builders and architects and homeowners and business owners. We work on rental property maintenance. So there are about 1,800 homes in our community that are owned by somebody else, and the renters are enjoying our community and they're active citizens, and we want to make sure that those homes are safe, and so do the landlords. So we work with the landlords to make sure that just the basic safety requirements are being met, keep our housing stock looking good and safe. We also have an amazing program in neighborhood housing services that helps homeowners and future homeowners understand what it means to own property, help them get their finances in order so they can realize their dream of becoming a homeowner. And if they need help rehabbing their homes, we also have grants available and financing options to help them along with that. And last year, we had quite a few permits that were issued out of our department. Many of those started with the Planning Commission. We have a 9-member planning commission that looks at all projects that are being considered. So if somebody has a dream, they come to our department and they figure out what the process is to make that a reality. The planning commission is an amazing volunteer board. They have a robust agenda every single month. They're seeing a lot of different things. We're also looking at the laws that might change, so that's a really interesting part of my job. And sometimes people have an idea that doesn't quite fit in with the current laws, and we help them through the Zoning Board of Appeals process. And sometimes that experience leads us to change the laws as well. And then during construction, sometimes people come against an issue that they didn't expect, and the codes for building don't necessarily work for them. So we have a process with the Construction Board of Appeals that our building inspector is a liaison for, and that helps the citizens through that process as well. So we're all about gaining compliance and helping people reach their dreams. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, we have our Department of Public Safety.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm proud to lead a group of men and women who are dedicated to protecting the citizens and visitors of Grand Haven. Our mission statement is focused on 4 Ps: protect, prevent, partner, and prepare. In the next 4.5 minutes, I'll take you through each P and add some details about what your public safety department is doing. The first P in our mission statement is to protect. We want to protect the community from harm through the delivery of professional public safety services. And we can divide our service delivery into 3 specific areas. The first area is law enforcement services. 2018, your department responded to 8,215 calls for law enforcement services and issued 2,569 parking citations. Law enforcement services range from investigating crimes and arresting offenders to traffic control for special events, directed patrols to address citizen concerns, and school zone patrols to ensure a safe environment around our schools. The second and third areas are fire and rescue services. In 2018, the department responded to 1,603 fire and rescue calls. Fire and rescue calls include fire suppression, fire alarms, gas leaks, high carbon monoxide levels, traffic crashes, and many medical emergencies involving citizens in our community. That takes us to our second P. Second P is prevention. We want to prevent crime, fire, and other hazards. The best fire is one that never starts. Our prevention efforts are focused on education, intervention, and inspection. Inspections prevent fires. Our fire marshal, fire inspectors, and code enforcement officer inspect more than 700 commercial and industrial buildings and 1,800 rental properties. We have a school resource officer dedicated to school students and staff during the educational year. Our officer educates students on topics such as bullying, cyber safety, fire safety, water safety, and substance abuse. Officer Hudson is also instrumental in recognizing and intervening in problems early so that the issues don't escalate into criminal behavior. The third P is to partner. We want to partner with the community to form relationships and solve problems. We can't have one without the other. The partnerships we have with the Grand Haven Area Public Schools, surrounding fire departments, and internally with the Community Development Department are vital in protecting residents and visitors. The numerous special events, open houses, and community engagement activities help us to participate with the community and form relationships. And the final P is prepare. We want to prepare the community for emergencies, big and small. In the past 3 years, through our Grand Haven Prepared initiative, we have provided civilian response to active shooter incidents training to more than 50 businesses, schools, and churches. Additional training provided to the community groups include fire extinguisher operation and CPR AED classes. To do all these things effectively and efficiently, we have to have a plan. In 2012, and again in 2015, all members of the department met and completed a strategic planning session. The information received from these sessions and input from department members assists in setting the direction of the department. By focusing on planning, we have been successful in achieving several long-range goals, including improving our fire service ISO rating and remodeling and updating the department and the department HVAC at the public safety building. Presently, our focus is on succession planning. In the next 3 years, we'll lose several key department members to retirement, including our detective, captain, 2 lieutenants, fire marshal, and 1 sergeant, sitting in the back room right now. We've been proactive in hiring and training, and we are looking good for continuity of service. Thank you for the opportunity to serve with this amazing group of people. I know I speak for everyone at the department when I say we are willing to give our all for the citizens of Grand Haven, and we look forward to meeting all challenges for our community.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Next up, Public Works.
Evening, Your Honor. Councilmember, I don't know if you can see me.
Absolutely. You are glowing.
They're darkening.
You were commenting earlier this year with, wasn't wearing bright enough shirts recently, so I went out and
Well,
a little more casual than I usually wear to a council meeting, but hopefully it's bright enough.
You have outdone yourself.
Well, I'm honored to discuss with you the Department of Public Works for the city. You need some sunglasses? I got some, Josh. We have a fantastic crew that provides the services that you allow us to provide and instruct. We have 49 full-time staff members, 2 part-time staff members, 22 seasonal staff members. And one of the great things about our department is we have a wide range of ages that service our public, 22 to 67 currently. I'm not going to go over everything that was in the report, but I want to add some additional information on topics and statistics that we maintain. As you know, our department maintains all the streets and sidewalks and storm sewers and sanitary sewers, all of our lift stations, water mains, hydrants, valves, along with our facilities and all our parks. There's lots of different facets to our department, but some of the things that people may not realize, or even the council, is how much those facets are. We maintain over 59 miles of streets. Denny can attest to every one of them, I'm sure. We plow in 2 shifts. You know, our operations are nearly 24/7. We start at 7 a.m. and we run till 3 a.m. Monday through Friday, and on weekends we run 7 a.m. to 3 a.m. on or 11 p.m. on Sunday and 3 a.m. on Saturday. We maintain over 1,500 streetlights in our city. We have over 2,600 street signs. They're not quite as bright as I am, but we pick up dead animals at the request of our residents and visitors, or if we see them first. Pat is fantastic at reporting those, and we get right on those. But over 100 a year, literally, we pick up off our streets. We do a lot of servicing to our special events, specifically the Coast Guard Festival, but every one of them maintains or requests services from our department. So we have over 115 miles of sidewalk. If you think about that and realize our small little town here has 115 miles. But there's also 730 manholes in our storm sewer system and 1,600 catch basins. Those are assets that our city has installed and service us, but they need maintenance. We have 2 water tanks in our system, 77 miles of water main, 4,400 services. We have over 1,000 water main valves that we exercise regularly and need to maintain in good working order. We have 568 public hydrants. There are some private hydrants, about 70 of them in our city, that we do not maintain. There's over 5,600 water meters. We complete services like changing out meters or providing water through a hydrant to a contractor, installing irrigation meters at the request of the customers. Every month we sample the water system as required and meet all the Safe Drinking Water Act requirements. We try to televise about 5 miles of sewer main a year. We've been short on that a little bit the last few years, getting a little behind, but we try to clean 6 miles of it as well. There are over 58 miles of sewer in the city. We maintain almost 250 pieces of equipment in our motor pool. Some of those are to the benefit of public safety. Keep all of those emergency services or vehicles in service. You know, in our facility department, all of the facilities we maintain, right from the shingles to the HVAC systems, to the plumbing, and even through our custodial crews for all the cleaning and setup of our facilities. In our marinas, that's fantastically operated by the Community Development Department and Shar Sese, there's 56 boat slips now that we have to maintain. And like this year, our crew stepped up and never built a dock, and we built 3 of them due to some damage that we incurred this past winter. Those are the skills that our department and personnel, if they don't know, they learn, and that's what the public requests. Oh man, I'm already at 5 minutes, Pat. Can I have some of his? No. Yeah, just a real quick background on our staff. We have 7 former military. We have 2 former firefighters, 1 former plumber, a former electrician, a body shop worker, underground contractor, and a truck driver. Those are the makeup of our department, and we're very thankful and glad that we have all of those experiences. Yeah, I guess that's about it since I'm over time.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, good job. Thank you. We're on to the Main Street DDA.
Good evening. I will keep it a little bit shorter because I've only been in place for about 2 months now, so I can't talk as long as Derek has. But our main goal, it's simple but also complicated, if you will. We want to strengthen our local economic city base, if you will, through promoting revitalization of the downtown and the center town and any of our districts. We want to promote a beautification, if you will, of the Main Street districts. We want to create a financially viable, attractive, and energetic Main Street. And realistically, we're doing it with me and Vicky, who is an amazing rock star as a part-time administrative aide. So there's just 1.5 people in our group of people. We have committees of the organization, promotions, preservation and place, and recruitment and retention. And each of those do a separate thing to help the board make decisions and then help bring things to the city council to make Grand Haven as great of a place as it is. Our organization and promotions handle all of the events from sidewalk sales to art walk to trick or treat, light night, small business Saturday, wine about winter, restaurant week, frozen in time. Our P&P handles facade improvements, making sure that the downtown and the center town, the waterfront areas all maintain the look and the feel that we want in Grand Haven. The feel of the flower beds, the historical design of buildings, they're definitely a major player in those areas. Recruitment and retention helps retain our current businesses, make sure that our current businesses don't fail, that they become successful as they open, recruits new and exciting businesses as well. And all together, that helps drive the Grand Haven Main Street districts to success, which helps make Grand Haven a desirable place.
All right, thanks, Jeremy. Next up is Harbor Transit.
That's me. I better set this timer right now. I get to fill in for Mr. Steve Patrick, the director. He wasn't able to be here tonight. But Harbor Transit serves 5 different municipalities: the city of Grand Haven, the city of Ferrysburg, Spring Lake Village, Spring Lake Township, and Grand Haven Township. The organization, since we started the authority, has grown tremendously, doubled its size essentially by adding Grand Haven Township and Spring Lake Township. By doing that, it drove overall costs down for those that were previously participating. So serves all of those communities and serves them very well. I'm safe to say they're fairly universally loved and appreciated. Those people who need them when they need them are so grateful to have that service. The current staff is a little over 70 people that work there, and that includes all their part-timers, but that makes up close to, almost half the employees of the overall city. So that's a big chunk of what we do. They're located over there on Ferry and Jackson, and the current setting is one of transition. We've got an interim director. We'll be hiring a permanent director probably sometime this year, maybe early 2020. and doing some strategic planning. Among our most pressing goals that the board has set forth is trying to connect with Muskegon and Holland and perhaps even Grand Rapids, trying to create a more regional flavor where people are not only able to get around the Tri-Cities area, but hopefully make that next step. And that's a very big step. It's a multi-year plan to be able to do that. There's all kinds of funding strings tied to things that you have to justify, study, re-justify, and go out and get the funding. So that's a big job and a lot of great people over there. We've got a tremendous staff of very compassionate individuals that do a really good job for our community, and I think you'd all agree that they're very important. As Bonnie Suchecki earlier said, that people are very impressed, and our own employees are very impressed with how important that is to our customers. So that is the Harbor Transit System. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Pat. And the wastewater treatment plant.
Thank you. In your guys' packet, there was a little mock-up of what we do, but I think I would like to share our mission statement and our goals that we do to carry that out. So first I'm going to state the obvious, and then I'll get into the things that make up our mission. Our mission is to process our wastewater and reclaim the fresh water and release that back into the environment. So stating the obvious. But we do this by being proactive with our management of our treatment assets so we can meet our desired level of service goals. Those goals would be meeting our regulatory requirements. We strive to achieve continued compliance with environmental regulations and produce the cleanest, safest treated water achievable with the treatment facilities we have. We perform the required testing in-house by maintaining our laboratory space and through third-party certified laboratory when needed to supplement these in-house capabilities. Another goal is to minimize our service interruptions. We monitor and maintain all of our wastewater lift stations and treatment system assets, so there are no reasonably preventative service interruptions to prevent the inevitable part of operating a wastewater system, which could be sewer backups or sewer line breaks. We also minimize our public hazards. Sewer breaks and inadequate treatment can cause significant damage, not only to the streets above them, but also to the adjacent utilities and property. To limit the potential damage for breaks in our property, staffing levels are maintained to allow emergency response services 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Treatment and communication systems are in place to ensure that the treatment plant continues to operate according to its permitting limits. We also provide capacity for community growth. We design our wastewater system to provide capacity for full community development based on current and approved future land use plans based on input from our customer communities. We also want to minimize our life cycle costs. The best financial decisions, as you guys may know, are those which achieve the lowest life cycle costs. This means we consider the full life cycle of each investment each time we look at making our improvements. We track our asset conditions periodically to evaluate criticality assessments to determine the optimum time for asset management and or replacement. Our decisions will strike a balance between maximizing the life cycle use of all of our assets and minimizing the risks of the asset's failure. And then lastly, we maintain our active relationships with our partner communities. We are a sewer authority, so our wastewater system serves the communities of the city of Grand Haven, Ferrysburg, the village of Spring Lake, and the townships of Grand Haven and Spring Lake. So this makes us all co-owners, and as co-owners, we must work together to maintain that wastewater system. The board meets regularly, or I should say quarterly, to review operation and maintenance demands, the capital improvement plans and rates, and will continue to do so in order to maintain procedural guidelines in our utility service agreements. And just the kind of main items I'd like to touch on to kind of show that we're kind of putting this sort of stuff in motion. As I reported earlier, we recently sold bonds for several projects that have already started this year. And we are receiving improvements to our pump stations, our primary and return activated sludge buildings, which are part of our process at the plant. We're getting a new headworks building as well as a new force main, which is already in use, which is located under the Grand River, and that connects our North Bank communities to our treatment plant. But the biggest thing that that we've put in place and kind of was highlighted from a SAW grant we received earlier in 2013 was tracking our assets. And so in order to track our assets, we thought it was crucial to get a new and improved software program in order to maintain that. And with that program, it allows for us to track any preventative or reactive maintenance. This software that we found is more user-friendly and is app-based. So the employees can access this software virtually anywhere through a a smartphone or a tablet. The implementation of this software has proved crucial since we will be receiving many new pieces of equipment through these improvements that have been taking place. A cool feature of the software is the ability to attach photos and any notes with the maintenance that is performed. So that way everybody's in the know. As people have sort of retired, which we've now we've had a complete turnover at the plant, a lot of that knowledge leaves with them. And so in an attempt to make sure that that knowledge stays, and in crucial times, because sometimes matters are pressing, we want to make sure that we have that at the touch of our finger. So this program allows for us to do that, and we're excited to make sure that we can maintain these assets moving forward. That's all I got for you.
All right, thanks a lot. And for now is a water filtration plant. We're doing.
9 minutes then?
You betcha.
Yeah, like Jim got it, come on. Just wanted to say good evening, thank you for having me. I got a little bit of laryngitis, I just came off a conference last week, so there's a lot going on in the world of water. So we know what our goal is. We've been doing it for a very long time. I've been here for over 34 years, trying to fulfill that goal, and hopefully have done that very well. But I have to give kudos to the staff that I have. They really do a great job. And we only really have 5 operators that fulfill that obligation. So keep that in mind when you think about, some of the departments around here that have a lot of staff that do the job. And I have to say, being here 34 years, being the last one here, looking at, finishing up with the department, working with everybody here, it's just fabulous that we have all this experience. It's just wonderful to be in their presence too. I enjoy working with everybody. So just to run through what we do and what we deliver, obviously clean drinking water is so important. We hear so much of it in the news. We deliver to 6 communities. Robinson Township is kind of attached to Grand Haven Charter Township, but we deliver to those communities safe drinking water. It's around 23.25 million gallons per day is our maximum production. We are not there yet, although we've seen mornings with demands very high, close to the 80 percentile mark, which we watch closely. We deliver water to close to over 40,000 customers. So when you think about that, we have 5 operators that are working 24 hours a day. So when everybody's home enjoying Christmas or Thanksgiving or some of these events, know that there's somebody at the water plant making sure that your water's safe. I always try to remind everybody of that. So anyway, moving away from that, I'm going to talk a little bit about the initiatives that we've kind of tried to start with. Obviously, they're changing all the time in the water world. The biggest one is, emerging contaminants, PFAS. We are testing for that had changed. We were going to do that twice per year, but we decided to follow the governor's, her plan of doing it every month. We're almost done with that program. We have not found anything. We found a little bit from our tap water. We think it's more just a residual effect, but for the most part, there's really nothing in our water. And we kind of key that to our intakes, and our intakes, as you well know, are buried below the lake bottom about 15 feet, pre-filtered water. So all of our source water gets pre-filtered before it gets to the water filtration plant. So that is a big plus for us. Are we invincible? No, we're not. I mean, it is very good that we have this, but I always say never. Things like this can happen. We just don't know what the next emerging contaminant can be. So keep that in mind. I did for a long time assist and help with the other communities for lead and copper. I did help Derek a little bit set up for this lead and copper sampling period. It was a real trying period, and they're involved with that. I know just unofficially that things look really good for all the communities. We're just not seeing the numbers out there of high lead levels, and that's a big kudos. One thing we are working on, I remember just talking to Eric. Eric Law is our new supervisor at the plant. We're trying to get a couple things going. One of them is lightning protection. We always seem to be pretty vulnerable for lightning, which makes sense. We're water, and you know, it just has a tendency to go that way. The other thing we've been doing, try to kind of watch how much we are spending on electricity, is we're switched over our lights to LEDs. So we got the low service pump next in line for LED switchover. So one of the things we are looking at, when I heard Ryan talk about asset management plans, we're very much involved with that. We have over 600 different pieces of equipment that we're following. One of the biggest things is trying to stay ahead of it and maintain it. Process pipe painting we did in the water plant years ago, and we're getting ready, hopefully, to stage that up for the low service pump coming up soon, along with some low service pump rehabilitation. So never ends. You always got to stay on top of that stuff. And the other things that we're watching is obviously regulations. Regulations are just coming out. We've been so busy and just spinning with regulations. I knew he would do that. So the UCMR4, it's the 4th round. We're just finished up with some of those regulations, testing for that. We're testing for cyanotoxins, which is blue-green algae. We're not susceptible to that. No, the duckweed that you see coming down the Grand is not blue-green algae, even though I get calls about that. So no, we have not found any of those cyanotoxins yet in our water, so that's a good thing. So other than that, we've been working with the NOWS group. Reliability studies is one of the things we're looking at, just kind of making sure that we reach our goals, that everybody has the capacity and the infrastructure to support what we give them. So that's a real big plus. And kind of finish up, because I'm kind of, one of the things that we do, I was trying to get kicked off this fall, was doing maintenance on the intake. Some of you don't know how we kind of do that. We actually, we hire a barge to go out and drop an I-beam in the bottom of the lake and break up all the material that is deposited on the bottom of the lake. And we want to evaluate that process to see how effective that is. So to get a diver and get the right weather conditions to get somebody out on the lake, sometimes very difficult, but we're going to be going after that in the spring and make sure that our contractor's doing a good job. But other than that, I think we're doing a wonderful job. Like I said before, our main goal is making sure that everybody has safe drinking water. So, thank you.
Thanks, Joe. I always found that interesting in a high-tech world. You got to drag an I-beam over your filtration pads. Keep them working.
That's a unique one, isn't it?
Yes.
You don't see too many intakes like the city of Grand Canyon.
But, hey, we have some of the best water around. There is absolutely no question about that. And Pat, we skimmed over the city manager's report. So.
Well, city council and city manager, everybody knows the tremendous amount of effort that comes forth from those areas. And of course, you legislate and lead and govern everything that you heard tonight, and you hire me to help look over the detail. But I think, as we just heard, I mean, what a tremendous overall effort, such a huge amount of volume, and they could have each gone on for an hour and probably wanted to, but we wanted to get it into a format that would be easily digestible. Again, the service plans that you have are part of the budget every year, but they tend to get overlooked when you get into the numbers and we start debating goals and directions and things. So I just thought so much work goes into this, and it turns out the timing couldn't have been better, because it seemed like half the city was in here today paying their taxes. So now they get to hear what they're covering, and that's a tremendous amount of service. All these different areas when they're writing that check, and of course the check they're writing, we only get about 28% of that or something. It's not all come to the city, and they get so much back, in terms of local services. It's always impressive to hear. So I want to thank all the departments that came out tonight and spent their time to enlighten us a little bit, and I I think this might become an annual event, the second meeting of September, so we follow up that tax date with a little feedback about here's what you're getting for that hard-earned dollar that you invest in your city government.
Well, there is an immense amount of work to make the city run, and that is a fact. So we appreciate everybody that works for the city and all their expertise and the hard work that they do. So appreciate it very much. Second item is the depot design concepts for our train depot. So Pat, if you want to kind of run us through that, we'd take a look at see what we've gone through a series of looks. And I think we've come up with something that's pretty good here at the end.
Yeah, we looked at doing some significant work to the Grand Trunk Depot to make it work better with the stadium improvements, and also prepare about a third of that space to have an anchor tenant that would help us cover the bills and also draw that continual interest into the building when we're not able to put on programming there. So we talked about leaving about 2/3 of it open for usable floor space for different community events, public space, and then the rest of it for that private use. And these are some drawings that the architect did just to show what it might look like in there if there was a reception, for example, as this one, if there were a reception where you had some tables set up for meals and an area for people to mingle. This might be what it would look like if there was some training going on in there. And then if the division between the commercial area and the public, versatile area were set up in this way. Oh, there you go.
Time's up. Okay.
Thank you very much. That's the end of that presentation. The idea here, though, is to show that when it's not being rented out, we would just have it opened up for people to come and go and use that space and hopefully occupy it. I think what success looks like is when there's a lot of people inside the building all the time, we hope. Here's a drawing that you looked at when we talked about, well, why don't we turn a number of those windows into doors to try to open it up? And that was not embraced by the Historic Commission. It wasn't supported by the Preservation and Place Committee. The City Council didn't really like it too much. But we listened and heard that there was a tremendous amount of interest in maintaining the historic integrity or value of the exterior of the building and the interior of the building. So this was an earlier concept of what we might do to the back of the building to try to open it up and make it more inviting, to bring all the people that are going by there up to and inside the building. This addition wasn't too well loved either. That really opens up the back, just take everything off and make it a big open gaping wall there. And that again was not embraced by the Historic Commission or Preservation in Place or the City Council. The idea is we can do better than that. We can make this complement our historic flavor down there better than this. Many train stations have these arcades. We found, and this, I don't remember where we came up with this, I think Kirsten Runschke provided this to me, that's a common element of transportation hubs of the late 19th, early 20th century, these arcade feelings. So I think Jerry located one of these pictures at Flagstar Bank, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Flagstar has one,
and then we've seen them around town in a couple locations. This is the back of our building and the arcade that went down to the waterfront. This is probably in a later year after it had begun to deteriorate somewhat. You can see that. But it does have those arches as you go down towards the waterfront. Here's an earlier picture that really shows where that came down to the waterfront, where people would get off the passenger ferries and make their way up to the train depot or vice versa. You see the town band down there is playing, probably a bunch of people arriving, and very interesting photograph there in early Grand Haven. So building on those arches and maybe trying to incorporate that into the back of the building and try to present something that would appear to be historically accurate or consistent and not completely taking away from the design of the building. The architect came up with some ideas about what those openings could look like if they were more in keeping with that archway concept, and try to use the original brick and make it look inviting but still very historic. The idea here is to open up the building so people are more likely to feel invited into the building. Keep those, forgot what they're called again, Josh, you told me. Corbels. The corbels that kind of look like they're holding up the roof there. Keep those intact. There are standards that have been developed by the Secretary of the Interior that are recommended that we follow those for guidelines for doing historic buildings, so we would have those at the forefront and stick to them, and also pay some significant attention to the interior. These are just white box kind of drawings, but we need to get some interior design effort paid to the inside to try to make it more flavorful, the historic period-based, sort of like what this room is. I've seen the pictures of this room from when the building opened, and it still looks very much like it did in 1934. So we'd want to pay some deliberate attention to the Secretary of the Interior's standards. Both the Historic Commission looked at these ideas, and the Preservation in Place Committee looked at these ideas, and they were much more accepting of these drawings than they were of the earlier concepts that we put out there. That when we're patient and we think and we listen to what's going on and what people are exploring and explaining to us that they're more interested in, I think we come up with a better outcome and something if we can afford it. Now, right now, we don't have any budget to do any of this work. The preliminary estimates that Kirsten has already shared with the City Council were north of $500,000 to do the things mechanical and structural and aesthetic to the building inside and out. With this concept, it's going to elevate that some more. So our concept now would be, if the City Council is comfortable with these ideas, that we would engage the private sector and see what kind of interest there is from philanthropy out there to hopefully make this a reality in the next couple of years. And then this picture here is what we saw the DDA director doing when he first took his job. I went down and caught Jeremy peeking in the window. He wanted to know if he could get his office in there, and we told him he's comfy upstairs. But that's the backside of our building now, and it's not typically used for a lot, and I think if we were able to create a more inviting atmosphere there, it might be a little more successful. So I'm hoping to get City Council consensus that we ought to move forward and get the architect working in this direction. And we'll be just like with the stadium, we started out with some big picture, broad concept designs, and then we worked our way into it, keeping council and the Historic Commission and the DDA and all the stakeholders involved and informed throughout the process, and come out with I think a final product that will be embraced and well used. So that's where the direction we're hoping to go in.
All right. I want to just say a few things about this too, because I heard from Steve, and I'm glad he's here this evening, Steve Loftus, that said that, him and Bob Warren that were interested in, and, say, let's do something with our stadium. Let's do something with the bleachers, because it's just metal and concrete and not inviting. And so what can we do to change that? And so we put together a committee of their DDA members, the chamber, Pat, myself, and some folks from the philanthropy world to look at what the possibilities were. And so we got together we engaged a whole group of stakeholders, interested parties to see, what would you like to see? And that was the seeds of our Waterfront Stadium that we have today. And it was, the keep meeting, keep talking, keep asking people, keep looking for what designs, what kind of things people want to see, and what's going to work. And so then, 4 years later, not exactly overnight, we finally see the finished product of that hard work. But our little committee, wasn't, our little ad hoc committee wasn't quite done, because you can't separate the depot from the stadium. To me, they are one campus, and that was, and the depot being so much a history of Grand Haven, with the railroads and the ferries, that how can we incorporate this into these two entities together to work together to complement our waterfront. This week, Saturday was Salmon Fest, and to walk through that area and see well, of course it was a beautiful day, but seeing the boats, the green grass, the white concrete, all the people enjoying themselves in the stadium, it's just, you feel like the luckiest person in the world to live in Grand Haven. And what better thing to to finish that off is to incorporate the depot into that concept. And so, you know, I think we've looked at a lot of things, we've consulted with a whole group of people, different committees to say, well, what do you think? And this one seemed to catch the imagination of the most folks, that it preserves the past, it preserves the look of the building, and preserves that history, but incorporates it together with the stadium, if at all possible, to give that open look. So I would really like to see, and you know, again, we had the stadium to do, and philanthropy came through with a $3 million gift, and once again we have that possibility of engaging our philanthropic community because we don't have the money to do this, but there's interest in it from that group of folks, and so that is a definite possibility. But they would like to see more of an open use of the building, and so this would fit that bill also. So just a little recap. I don't know, Steve, if you wanted to say anything, I'd invite you up, because Steve's really been the driving force. He keeps saying, it's time to have another meeting, people. So.
Well, thank you. Steve Loftus, 120 Poplar Trail. I'm glad I got here tonight. It was a very instructive opportunity to see all the different departments, and if you've been here enough years, you've had a chance to meet and talk and work with all the departments. And one thing that just dawns on me is what council's done to develop a high level of leadership and trust. And when you have leadership and trust, then competency, knowledge, opportunity come together, and that's what we've really experienced through the administration and council. And this is another opportunity here, finishing up the Waterfront Stadium. I think the goal is always less is more. Just creating something that was already beautiful in its own right. And the depot, intrinsically tied to the Waterfront Stadium, it's the same level of care and oversight that's going to be needed in the next several months to make sure that it's done properly and that the community appropriately has an opportunity to weigh in on certain elements of the design. It's been commented we don't internally inside the building, we don't want another community center. We want something that reflects the history. Mr. McGinnis brought that up. I think that's going to be very important in terms of the integrity of the interior of the building. And the exterior as well. An architect has been hired, but architects have different perspectives and different experiences. And so to take a look at some architects, even locally, West Michigan, Grand Rapids, that have experience in redeveloping historic buildings, because we're not the first community that has had to take a look at that and work with the architects and work with the community to come up with something that still reflected the history of the building, the history of Grand Haven, but also reflected an opportunity in the larger picture to get it right and to make sure that the building maintains its level of historic integrity and yet is more functional and facilitates a larger audience of people, visitors, the community. It's a public trust, and we have to get this building right. I can say with some confidence that I believe if we do the right thing, we can secure private philanthropy to the tune of $500,000 to $600,000 in presenting. There's been some work done in presenting the appropriate vision, and then with the vision comes the planning. So with a high level of trust and opportunity, good oversight, we have our small committee put back together with Mr. McGinnis leading us with his competency and level of knowledge in dealing with these types of things. We feel that we can take this moment of time and this opportunity and really finish this off, this very, very important piece of real estate to all of us in Grand Haven and West Michigan, and get it done and get it done right. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 2 minutes before we can, we have to begin our council meeting, so if we want to take that 2 minutes and talk about this when we come back to our work session afterwards. So.
If we're going to talk about it, we should do it with more than 2 minutes.
No, I know, I'm saying, it's 7:28, we got 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Right.
Stretch.
We're gonna take,
Let's
this
take-
is your opportunity to
let's take
stretch. We will talk about it much more than 2 minutes, but we gotta get our
you.
council meeting going first.
So you're gonna adjourn this?
So we're gonna adjourn this.
Okay.
But it's not really adjourned, it's just temporarily halted. Okay. What's the word for temporary? A temporary adjournment.
Suspend.
We're gonna,
We're
we
gonna
got
start at
one.
7:30.
Yeah, 1 minute.
Here.
Bruger?
Here.
Scott?
Here.
Fritz?
Here.
McCallum?
Here. Our invocation this evening will be given by Pastor Bob DeVries, Covenant Life Church. Please remain standing after the prayer for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. Would you join me as we pray? Father in heaven, we pause to recognize that you are the Lord of all. And we thank you for your many abundant blessings, for the life we enjoy, for the measure of health that we need to fulfill our callings, for the spirit of peace and friendship that we enjoy in this community. I thank you, God, for all who are present here tonight and for those who graciously give of their time and talent to serve our community. I pray for our mayor, for our city manager, and city officials, and in particular for this assembled council, asking, God, that you would graciously grant them wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues that they face, a sense of welfare and the true needs of our people, a commitment for justice and rightness in all things, confidence to do what is good and fitting for the Grand Haven community, the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement, and God, for personal peace in their lives, in the joy in the work to which they've been called. I pray for the agenda set before them tonight and ask, God, that you would please give an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work and play and enjoy the city of Grand Haven. It's in your blessed name I pray. Amen.
Amen. At this point, we have a very special person to honor. So I'm going to ask Jim Bonamy if he'll meet me up at the podium. I'm going to read this resolution.
I know you tried. Thank you.
All right. This is a resolution honoring James Bonamy. I hate to say James, but that's what it is.
Jim, that's okay. I'll let
Jim's
you
good,
go.
all right. Because he is, after 25 years as our finance director, Jim's going to be riding off into the sunset, but not far. He's going to stay around, but he's going to retire.
Grand Avenue.
Grand Avenue. And we are going to miss him. Jim has done an amazing job for the city of Grand Haven. He is a man of high integrity and a guy that knows how to juggle those numbers with the best of them, I'll tell you. So I'm going to read this. Whereas at a special meeting held on October 18th, 1994, the Grand Haven City Council unanimously approved Ed Carisno's appointment of James Paul Bonamy to serve as a finance director for the city of Grand Haven. And whereas Jim's tenure began with a series of significant financial challenges, that's an understatement, and he was able to accelerate up the learning curve and quickly gain the trust and support of the city council, staff, vendors, stakeholders. And Jim trained 3 city managers, and all 3 were the beneficiaries of his wisdom, patience, and expert advice. And during his early years with the city, Jim assertively pursued systematizing all city financial applications, bringing Grand Haven fully into the information age, in an efficient, sensible, and sane process that served the organization well. And whereas Jim revolutionized the city budgeting process, creating a transparent, complete, and effective system that he adjusted each year based on performance, outcomes, and personalities. And whereas every operation, from utility billing to payroll to audit to budget to bonding to assessing, has been measurably improved under Jim's watchful eye, and many professionals have come to work for the city and due to Jim's encouragement have flourished and succeeded in ways they never knew possible. And whereas the City of Grand Haven Finance Office is trusted and listened to throughout the community thanks to the stability, intelligence, and integrity that Jim brings to work with him every day. And whereas over a 25-year career, Jim has seen the good and the not so good, but has always maintained his composure and lent his confidence to others on the team, always accepting blame but assigning credit to others. Now therefore be it resolved that the City of Grand Haven City Council hereby recognizes James Paul Bonamy's magnificent impact on the City of Grand Haven and formally declares October 18th of each year as the Sweater Day at City Hall in his honor. For those that don't see, he has the most amazing collection of sweaters you're ever going to find.
Thank you.
So, Jim, we love you.
When I knew the mayor was going to say something and spend a long time, with this resolution, I figured, well, turnabout is fair play.
Oh, boy.
Uh-oh. I think we got some.
It's shorter, it's much shorter, yeah. Some of you don't know, but during the course of the summer, I had to get my cataracts removed, and so that pushed me to have 4 weeks off in a row, which is something I think I never have done since probably kindergarten. So having all that time, it makes you think, and it makes you think about, for me, it makes you think about Grand Haven and what it means to me. We're only here for a moment. We sing, laugh, dance in the sun, the world's spinning around because we do in our antic lives. How is it that we look at the sunset approaching, yet dream of the new day beyond? We cannot see that future, Yet we simply know that it is there, like air, like waves on a still lake day. They will rise up from the deeps for us. They always have. They always will. Well, mostly so. Only here for a moment, consider the intensity of our days. Our chores beckon like sultry sirens or scheming witches. Still, the work invites us to enter in, to find the soul of it, to drink our harvested grapes, to eat the fresh-made bread. We teach our children that play has certain rewards, but work, the struggle to create, to grow, to demand of the world what it may not be willing to give, there is the greater harvest. Only here for a minute, I merely gather words for these lines. Like picking cherries or raspberries, being ever so careful not to crush the fragile fruits as we settle them in small boxes. Our work dutifully done, the farmer releases us from our charge, and we race down to the rivers and beaches to meet friends. We breathe this simple freedom we may have earned, all of us only here for a moment, and then we are gone without another word. Thank you, City Council, for 25 years.
Tim is a man of many talents, not only as a wizard with numbers, he's a great photographer. As you can see, he's quite a writer. So enjoy your leisure. Thank you very much. All righty. Besides that, and then the collection of sweaters, I come on that. So we are to the approval of the consent and regular agendas. Moving right on. Do we have any changes?
I have no additions or changes, Your Honor.
Okay, any from up here? All right, so then I need a motion to accept the agendas as presented.
I'll make that motion.
All right.
Support.
Been moved and supported. And we are ready to vote.
Manetza?
Yes.
Ruger?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Fritz?
Yes.
McCaleb?
Yes. This is general business, call the audience. This is the first of two opportunities to address council. So if anybody would like to do that at this time, just come up, tell us who you are and where you live. And if not, we will move along to continue our work session.
So I think it's back to you, City Council, for further discussion, questions on the depot.
Input on the depot, because we are eager to hear what you think. Yeah, can you put those pictures back up there, Ashley?
Okay. Oh, all right, I'll go, since I started. I've been I've said repeatedly that I don't think we should be altering the exterior facade of this building. We should keep the historic pattern, rhythm, the way it was built, the original brickwork and all that intact. And I still don't see any reason to change that. I see that the pattern of the arches are different here, and you found some historic pictures of some walkway which had been covered, which had wider arches that were looking kind of like these, but they were never part of this brickwork or masonry work. I think that preserving the facade of the depot as it was built, as it's existed for the past 140, 150 years, 1870 to now, is an important tribute to the past and to the past of Grand Haven. And I don't see the advantage to changing it, but I do see the disadvantages to altering it and potentially messing it up. The bays that you're fitting these into, where between the brackets and the pilasters of the brick, they're somewhat uneven. The pattern of arches will be somewhat uneven. You'll probably have to alter. You probably won't save any of the jambs of the original windows and doors, or maybe one side or the other, but it'll be, otherwise everything will be different widths and different curvatures to the arches. So I see a lot of opportunities for this to not look right. But what we do have now is a fairly historic and consistent rhythm that works well and is very familiar to us. My other fear is that
I don't care how good you are as a mason, taking the old bricks, trying to reset them and reset the arches, will never look like the original walls. You'll always see that it was an alteration, just as when we put the addition on the north or east end, north end, I guess it is. Put the addition on there, and I lobbied hard to make that roof subordinate to the original roof, lower ridge, pull the eaves in so that we wouldn't try to line things up with the original, because I knew it wouldn't look right, and it doesn't look right, because you can see the sag and the age of the original roof lines there, and they don't follow through, and then you have that big copper flashing across the roof that doesn't fit anything. I can see similar things happening here. I don't care how good you are as a mason, you're going to see that kind of stuff. So I noticed that all of the interior artwork, all the interior renderings for how it's to be used, none of them reflected these enlarged doorways and archways. And they look just fine. I think you can do a lot of things with the interior and not mess up the historic facade of the building. And I think that the building I think it's good for us to try to reuse adaptively what's there to the extent we can. But I still respect and want to maintain that exterior facade, and I see more problems, hazards, and downsides than I do see upsides to this. In fact, I see none. So I'm still opposed to making these alterations to the facade of the building.
So go down the line. It is my day job is residential construction. And one of the biggest challenges and most enjoyable challenges in Grand Haven is working on older homes and trying to blend the past with the present and to make it appear as if whatever we've done that is new, whatever alteration we've made that has made the space more useful, more relevant to today, if we can trick the eye just long enough that somebody has to hesitate and look at it to say, boy, was that always there? And I believe that with this drawing right here, it's actually quite a good segue from the past into the present. And with those arches and the support from the drawings that you have of the original archway that came out, I think this is a natural evolution of the building that's going to make it relevant and possible for greater use today. I understand the historical side that Bob and others are keen on keeping, and I think you've got to find a fine balance between yesterday and today. And this drawing, I think we're headed in the right direction. As Pat noted, the philanthropic community, we're going to really need your help to step up. And if donors in the philanthropic community is passionate about this drawing or some variation thereof, I think I encourage them, I challenge them to take the baton that's being passed from the Lynn Sherwood Stadium and to take it to the second step in the journey, which is finishing up the depot. I think it can be a viable part of the entire experience. Being downtown, as the mayor said this weekend, we had Salmon Festival, and I was down there walking. We had a bunch of shops out front, but there wasn't a whole lot happening inside. And it's not an open and inviting environment as it is right now. And I can see these wider expanses and doorways and archways as a way to invite people in to visit some of the history of Grand Haven while being a part of the present. So I'm keen on this, and I think, I guess to use it's college football season, and Lynn Sherwood Stadium got us down into the red zone, and this is the final 20 yards, and I hope that the philanthropic community can pick it up and get us a touchdown here. It's a little bit of cheesy analogy, but maybe apropos today. Those are my thoughts.
Okay, and I agree. I like the concept of this too. To keep it historical, just like it is right now, it's not going to be very friendly. It's not going to be user friendly, and this makes it user friendly. It still keeps the horse. It keeps the building like it originally was. Basically, I mean, it's not a big change in it. And to make it user friendly, we have to do some changes to it. And I think this makes it very user friendly. I think I like the design. I like the way it looks, and the historical look is still there. So I like the way it looks. I think it's gonna, I think that would be a big improvement down there.
Well, I have to agree with Bob a little bit here. History goes back, this is one of our focal points is our history here in Grand Haven. We have the train, we have the coal tipple, and we have the depot. By changing it around, you're playing with history a little bit. There's organizations, Mr. Loftus was just here and he alluded to that, is that there are companies out there that can actually take these older buildings and make them very viable inside and that, but you actually maintain the outside and still make the inside even look somewhat close to what the time period was for it and still make it useful. I think we came a long ways from the first one. If you look at the new addition we put on, it looks really bad. It doesn't match very good with it. It doesn't, I've had people from out of town come up to me and tell me, he says, boy, what'd you guys do to that building? You know, I said, well, that's what you get when you get trying to put new with old. They weren't very happy with it. And I don't want to see us going down that same route again here because the building itself has just so much history. It's, our family, you know, was a commercial fisherman and we fished out of the lake here and that. And I spent a lot of time down there when I was growing up, and my dad spent a lot of time down there, and I'd just like to maintain some kind of integrity of history. That's what we have to do, you know. And my whole saying is that if you don't know what your past is, how can you move forward? So you got to remember what your past is, and this is part of our past. So this is better than what we've seen before, but I don't think we're quite there yet. I think we need to maybe try someone that knows, reach out to other organizations or other places that's done historical buildings and see what they've done with them. I'm not so ready to move forward with this design or the interior design. I'm not happy with either one of them at the time, but it's much better than the first ones we've seen. We're going in the right direction, but I think we need to look and reach out to some place that knows about history and knows how to maintain old buildings and how to put them back in shape and make them look and still be usable for today.
Well, that's really our intent, is to find some, you know, to find people that know how to work with these things, with older buildings, to make sure that it does maintain its integrity, but also add to its usefulness. And as far as the end of it looking different, that was purposeful, because we didn't want it to look like we were trying to match the addition with the rest of the building. We didn't want somebody to say, well, nice try, but you didn't get there. So we wanted to make sure that it didn't look like we tried to put an addition to the building and make it look like part of the original. So that was intentional. But the idea of being able to open this up, to have people be able to pass through the backside and not have to go through little narrow doorways, but to do that in a very, very tasteful and very historic way, with people that know how to work with this kind of equipment, to reuse, so that you're not introducing new products into it if at all possible. I think that's what we need to look for. This is just a concept, and then to find the people that can do the job, that are used to working with this type of structure, I think is to me is what our intent is, what we'd like to and what we'd like to do. But to be able to open it up so that it is open from the back as well as the front. The front won't change at all. The south side won't change at all. It is just to get the back of the building to open up into the stadium so that they can become one, so people can pass from one to the other. And to make it more inviting to put events inside the building. I think keeping the historic nature inside the building, I think that's another thing we need to look at. These are it's a very basic concept with no detail, kind of like when we started the stadium. We just had some basic concepts and we had to fill in the blanks along the way. So this is just that first step. But yeah, the basic thing is to take such good care of this as a historic structure, to put it in the best of hands and maintain its integrity. And that's, I think, the bottom line for everybody.
Good. Thank you very much for that guidance, and I'll take that under advisement and present City Council the question that can move us forward towards restoring the building in some fashion.
All right, thanks. On to the consent agenda. So when you're ready, Linda, if you want to read that.
This is to approve the bills memo in the amount of $4,082,197.40. Approve a resolution honoring James Bonamy for 25 years of service. Set Monday, October 7th, 2019 as the date to hold a public hearing concerning SPI Pharma's request for a new industrial facilities tax exemption certificate. Approve a community service fund letter agreement with the Grand Haven Area Community Foundation to establish the Grand Haven Lighthouse Rehabilitation Fund for the purpose of preserving, restoring, and caring for the lighthouses on the South Pier, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents. To accept the only bid and approve the contractor services agreement with HydroCorp in the amount of $45,508 per year for 3 years to provide cross-connection inspection services, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents. Approve the King of the Great Lakes special event to be held on Saturday, September 21st from 10 o'clock a.m. to 6 o'clock p.m. and Sunday, September 22nd from 10 o'clock a.m. to 6 o'clock p.m. at the City Beach, and waive fees in the amount of $1,180. Approve the Catwalk Illumination event to celebrate the lighting of the catwalk on Monday, September 30th, 2019, from 8 o'clock p.m. to 10 o'clock p.m., and authorize the display of fireworks at the event. And approve a contract with Wolverine Fireworks for the September 30th once-in-a-lifetime event fireworks show, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents.
All right, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions on any of the items on the consent agenda? Yes, Pat?
I apologize, the Illuminate the Catwalk event will probably be about 7:30 to 8:30. It's not gonna go till 10 p.m. I don't want anybody expecting a 2-hour fireworks show.
It's gonna be an hour?
It's gonna be yippee, and we're gonna get out of there pretty quickly, and that is weather dependent. If it's raining or the waves are splashing up over the pier, we may delay until Tuesday night. So we just want to make a mark when we light that thing back up.
So that should read 7:30 to 8:30?
Yeah, 7:30 to 8:30 p.m.
With the actual event happening at 8 o'clock, from what I
At 8 p.m. is when the lights are
go
scheduled to go on. So if you're running last minute, we're going to hold them off, and it'll be right at 8 p.m. And if you're running late, you're going to miss it if you're there at 8:10.
I just want to make a comment on the $4 million of expenditures. Almost $3 million of that is actually a pass-through again. It's tax time, so just to let you know that our expenses are not that high, but it's kind of a pass-through at this time of year when you get taxes coming in.
It's that time of year, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll see it another time yet.
Okay. Are there any changes on the King of the Lakes special event from Matt Kite? It's exactly the same as last year?
I didn't see.
Okay. Well, we approved it last year. I don't see any reason not to this time.
Thank goodness. Glad he's here.
Okay. Shall we make him get up and talk? Or? Good. And the catwalk illumination event, if we need parking, are we planning to use the state park parking lot?
Yes, I've checked. Thank you very much. I've checked with the state park. They've affirmed that the day use area will be completely open, as will the fisherman's parking lots. Will be about 850 parking spots available there.
Okay, so if we get a good turnout, we're not too worried about where to put them.
No, I think there'll be absolutely adequate parking for everybody.
Okay, that's good news. All right, that's all the questions I've got.
I've got a couple of questions on about the cross-connection inspection services, because I think I talked to Pat earlier on this. Is this $45,000 a year for 3 years? Is this going to be an ongoing expense, or is this something that's a 3-year, or it's a finite expense and it's going to be done, or it's going to be an ongoing that we have to budget for this on a continual basis?
This will be an ongoing.
The-
The cross-connection inspection services is something we will need ongoing.
For all properties, or?
Yes, we have a residential cross-connection control program, but this one's specific to commercial properties.
Okay. Excuse me, will it always, is this $45,000 a realistic figure? Or is it, what I'm getting at is, we're gonna do this special one to make sure, but it's always gonna be ongoing, so we always have to budget this amount of money.
Correct.
Okay.
We've been doing this for years, haven't we?
For the past 3 years.
Yeah.
Past 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, when I was at Howmet, we had to have all of our backflow preventers inspected and all that kind of stuff inspected, and we had to do that at our expense and turn the reports in to the city of Whitehall. But here we are taking more involvement in that. I mean, why is this the city's expense?
The city's required to perform those cross-connection inspections by Eagle, formerly known as DEQ. And we need the help of a company to perform that because we have such a large amount of cross-connections inspections to perform per year.
Okay, and these are in the city's distribution system or at the end user?
In the distribution system.
Okay, so the end user is still responsible for having theirs inspected?
Correct, and this is the way that we find out that they've done that properly.
So are some properties more, like, you know, your basic homeowner, is he as much as risk as a corporation that does a lot of, works with a lot of water supply or chemicals?
There's higher risk and low risk, and if it's a high risk area, then it's inspected every year, and a low risk would be every 3 to 4 years.
Okay.
Would it be cheaper if we had somebody in-house to do that or not?
I don't think so. It would require probably a few more additions to our staff just to be able to handle.
So one person couldn't do that 8 hours a day for the whole year?
Well, with the amount of reporting, notices that need to go out, final notices, just to oversee the whole project and things like that, it can get expensive.
Okay.
I've got a bright wingman approaching from behind.
Yeah, and I just while Derek approaches, he's hard to spot out there. And Jim will correct me if I'm wrong, and when we adopted it and decided to go this way, we added a surcharge onto this class of users to cover 100% of the costs. So they are, not just, theoretically, they are actually paying for this. It's not an additional charge to our customers. Each of these users are paying additional fees on their commercial and industrial water bills every month to keep up with this and pay this $45,000 each year. So we've set it up in such a way so that it's a user fee being charged to those customers.
So it's not, because it appears to be another unfunded mandate, but it's not the way it's been set up.
Currently, this is an increase of $1,400 from what we were previously. So, with that addition, we already have it funded, and it'd be a minor increase.
Derek Gates, Public Works Director. Thanks, Matt. The program, non-residential, which is what this is for.
Okay.
We do have a proposed residential program. It hasn't necessarily been approved by you. However, Eagle is requiring that, and that's going to be coming forward to you guys very soon. The residential one, originally Bill Hunter set this up to have the non-residential done by this company and have our staff do the residential, so that we were handling our residents with some very specific guidelines and our own personnel to be in homes instead of a contractor. So non-residential, industrial, commercial, all the other non-residential users in the city, they pay directly, like Pat said, a fee on their bill that pays for this $45,000. We'll have to raise that a little bit, $1,400. We'll have to divide that out. You'll see that coming. But yeah, this has been a requirement since 1976. So we've been doing it for a long time. It's the inspections. This $45,000 is for the inspections, the administrative overhead, oversight. Like Matt said, letters, mailings, all that stuff. The property owner still has to test their devices and pay for that testing of those backflow devices. So you're right, Councilman Manessa, that the property owner still has to pay for that. We just are required to inspect and find out what's there.
Okay.
I have to agree, they've came to my place and inspected mine, because I'm in the industrial park there. And they had different controls for different things, and you have to have them set up so high and that, so, and that is at my expense. They just inspect it, that's all they do is inspect, and they report it. And then anything above and beyond that is the owner itself has to apply that to it, so.
Yeah, this 45,000 is just for the inspection person and all the administrative staff behind it. So we're gonna be absorbing a bigger portion of that in the residential when we start that in the coming years. But non-residential, once we get through the initial inspections, it should be a pleasant visit, and you gotta test your devices, and as long as you don't make any changes that are against the plumbing code, then it should be happy. Might even give out suckers or something like that if.
Donuts?
It all depends on what type of device you have to put in. Sometimes it can run up to about $6,000-$7,000 if you have to
Yeah,
put something
absolutely.
in.
One of those facilities was our, the lodge needed a device on the water, snow machine supply.
Yep.
Which was, they did install, the ski bowl did, so, yes, even found it in ours.
Okey-doke. There any other questions? Otherwise, we will vote.
Bruger,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
Manetza.
Yes.
McCaleb.
Yes. And on to new business when you're ready.
First item under new business is to approve an 85 cents per 1,000 gallons surcharge.
86 cents.
86? I
Sorry.
wrote the wrong thing down, sorry. 86 cents, sorry.
Oh, that's all right, we saved a penny a thousand.
Penny.
We'll go with Linda's. I like that better.
86 cents per 1,000 gallon surcharge, the Michigan lead and copper fee required by the state to fund the city's replacement of 5% of lead and copper contaminated customer service lines with a fee beginning November 1st, 2019 to continue for the next 20 years. The administration recommends approval.
Is there a motion?
Grudgingly, yes.
I protest I'll protest it, but I'll second the motion.
So this is an increase of, increase on your water bill of maybe about, at least $10 a month, I would say, if you're using 10,000 gallons. But it's there's another state mandate that we have to do. We don't have a whole lot of choice because I'm going to try to be nice.
You're doing well.
This is the largest increase we've ever had to give our citizens, right, Pat, at one time? The largest single increase we've ever had to do, right?
Largest since I've been here would be the single, 25% would be the biggest single jump.
Yes, it is. Being the biggest since I've been on here.
And according to Derek, if this 86 cents will suffice, but unless the consumption goes down, that's got to increase again. Is that correct?
That's correct. This is all on commodity rates, and so typically there is a rate shock to when you increase it significantly. So we sold on average, we sell about 700 million gallons of water a year.
All right.
So does that turn into 650 next year, or 600, or 525?
So we could have to increase this again if consumption goes down.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would like to propose that the residents that have their new lines installed, after they have them installed, we charge them $5 a month. And the reason is because residents right now, like Mike, like you did, Mike, you had to pay the full cost of that going all the way from the main all the way to your house. You had,
Yes,
and that's the way policy is right now. So if somebody gets their water main or their water line changed because of corrosion or whatever, or breaks or whatever, from the shut off to the house, it's theirs to pay for. Now the state's mandating that we take care of the whole thing. So the problem is what I have with that is these people are getting away free with this, and they pay absolutely nothing, and the whole town has to pay for this, and then if the water consumption goes down because people don't want to sprinkle their grass anymore, or whatever happens, we're going to have to raise it again. So I would like to make that a little bit more stable by adding a $5 fee to the people per month when they have their lines installed. And that would go on for, say, 20 years, I guess, you know, until they get that portion, until we get this thing resolved.
Well, oh, sorry, Derek.
So when I presented 2 weeks ago at the council meeting, if you charged every customer starting in November, you would need to charge every customer, not just the lead service line customers, $11 a month for 20 years.
Right.
Not just when they get installed.
I'm not saying, I'm saying go ahead and charge the 86 cents what we're proposing right now, but I'm just saying add the $5 to stabilize that.
Yep.
If we start seeing a reduction in the usage, so we don't have to raise this rate again.
Gotcha.
Help stabilize that.
Sure.
Okay.
My hope is that sanity prevails, because like Bob said a couple of weeks ago, this is going to drive some communities into bankruptcy because people can't afford to do this. And I'm hoping that somebody can, you know, will realize that and roll this back, because if you have a problem with lead, then you need to fix it. We don't have a problem with lead, and we're just still being required to fix it. I just put in a new sewer line. I had to pay for that. Nobody did it for me. And that's, you know, if the line is changed from my house to the street, should be the resident's responsibility, but the state mandates that the whole community has to pay for those lines. And the reason we're doing this right now is because we have a grant to fix Fulton Street, and if we don't start doing this immediately, we're not gonna get that grant and Fulton Street is gonna stay the way it is right now. So we're the only reason we're doing this today is because we're under the gun to get this right, to hurry up and get this done so we can get Fulton Street fixed and keep a hold of that grant money that we were awarded. But it's not because we're doing this, not because we have a lead problem. In fact, we have the opposite of that. Even though we tried to find lead in our water, and they sampled it in the worst possible case scenario, we're not finding any. So we're having to do this for political reasons and not because we have an issue with our water. And with all the amount of infrastructure that we have to fix, this to me is such a waste that I don't have words for it. So,
yeah. After our last meeting on that Tuesday night, and I sat there at home and woke up about 3 o'clock in the morning thinking, you know, since this was a governor's mandate, you know, executive order type writing is what it come down to, I approached Mr. McGinnis, and I thought a great idea would be to have the Attorney General and the Governor come here and invite all our local communities to come in and state our case and what we're doing here and how it's so devastating to some of our neighbors. How will they actually, you know, like Muskegon Heights would be a good example. If they don't get a grant to do this, they're not going to be able to do it. Benton Harbor's another one down the road. How can they afford to do this? There's other communities that cannot do it. It'd be great to have them come here and have them state the case to them, what we have and our findings that we have and all the local ones do, and see if we can go that route and have her change it. You know, it's an executive order, and if she has any kind of instinct or whatever and listening abilities and hear what we have to say, it would be great for her to modify the executive order, because she can do that. It would be a great thing to do. So I'm hoping anybody that's sitting out there listening, if they can have any kind of contact, to have the governor get a hold of us, get a hold of Mr. McGinnis here and say, yes, I'd like to come to Grand Haven and have that conversation. So that's what I was proposing, and I'm hoping to try, and I made a few contacts myself and trying to get her to come here along with the Attorney General also, so they can both help us out. Because you're right, it's 86, that's the largest increase we've ever had since I've been on here. I've been here 16 years, and I've always fought to try and have a little increase and try and make it civil for them. But when you're mandated to do something that's by the state, it's absolutely terrible that we have to do this to our citizens. So we need help. And not only just us, but our communities and everybody else in the state. One size doesn't fit all. And we can show them the testing that we have, and we come across them, we do replace them. We just did it at my place. So it's not that we're not trying to take care of it, it's just that we need some help for financial with it.
Well, I'll add my complaining as well. One more unfunded mandate from Lansing. Unfortunately, there was a lawsuit that's already played out in court. A number of municipalities, including the city of Detroit, sued the state to try to get this overturned, so we didn't have to do it, and they lost the court case. So we're stuck with this. So I'll register my complaint, and then gonna pick up my bag and try to figure out a solution that's gonna be the most equitable for the residents in Grand Haven, understanding there's not one. This sucks either way you go. So I wanna piggyback a little bit on what Denny said, and as far as the breakdown goes, and Derek, you did a great job giving us some different options and how to distribute this cost as equitably as possible, and there's no great way to do it. Either option stinks. But something that Denny talked about with this $5 a month additional charge, I don't know about waiting until somebody has their sewer line, or excuse me, their water line replaced. I think maybe immediately, if we've identified a certain number, we've got a pretty good idea of which ones are lead and which ones are not.
Yep.
And you know, I'd love to shift a little bit of the burden from everyone more directly to those particular properties that have not had their, that we know of, and that have not had their lead line, so that as others have pointed out, there's not necessarily a free ride for anybody. Everybody's contributing a little bit, and some who specifically have the challenge, have the issue, are contributing more. So if there's a way that we could do that with this $5 surcharge, whatever you want to call it, I don't know if you call it a surcharge, or it's $10 a month, or whatever it is, just something to take that burden off of those like Mike, who has graciously said, I don't mind, I'll pay it anyway. But those who have already had it done, or those who don't have lead lines, I'd like to see a little more equitable distribution of it. But I understand time is of the essence. We need to make a decision tonight in order to get this grant going. So you know, if there's a consensus among council to pick one of the two options with the option to revisit it at a later date, I'd be very much open to that. But I'd love to do whatever you need to do so that we can acquire this grant money and get Fulton Street done.
Sure.
So those are my 2 cents. I agree with everybody else. This is a terrible spot to be in, but it is what it is.
And so I was at the same conference Joe was at last week, the American Water Works Association State Conference, and got to speak with a lot of communities. They're all in the same boat. Everybody's following through with replacements, and everybody's begrudgingly doing it. And they shared a lot of a wealth of knowledge on how they're going to go about doing that. Most of them were with rate increases, and that there are some other options that might be able to alleviate some of that. And I'll discuss that with Pat when I meet with him in the morning. You know, down the road, the state is looking at it. They're not looking at giving the money away, but there might be some loan forgivenesses and low interest loans. They understand the problem we're in to get it done. They still believe we need to do it no matter what.
They're just complicating matters. I'm sorry. Just well, now we're going to give you a loan, or we're going to forgive your loan. Because if you add $5 to it plus the 86, now you're going to, you know, you're for the average user is probably going to go up 15 instead of, you know, 10 for the average user, and then 15 if, you know, if your line is being replaced. That's $45 in 3 months. We used to get billed every 3 months. That's a hard hit for a lot of people to take.
Yeah.
Didn't you say, Derek, that was the $5 that would raise the average homeowner with a family of 4, $5 a month? Is that 86 cents, is that right?
Yeah, if you're 6,000 gallons, I think would be the average monthly.
Yep.
Times the 86 cents.
So then if we added the other $5, they'd be paying $10 a month.
Yeah.
For the people that needed their lead lines changed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd like to make an amendment to do that, that we add that $5 on the leaded.
Could I just want to shine a bright light on something that we talked about before, and I've put a lot of thought into this, that if you start charging those that actually have theirs replaced, I think that's a safe area to be in. What I would not want to do is charge $5 to somebody we think we're going to replace later, because if things do change and we come up with a different method, then we would have a really nightmarish
Yep.
effort to try to figure out, well, who paid their $5 a month, and do we have to refund them if we then get the money from another source? So I think if it were just sort of a,
86 cents.
Pay as you go, pay as you
well,
go.
the ones that we actually replace, so if on
Right.
Fulton, we do 27 of them,
Yep.
those 27 bills would get the additional $5 fee going forward, because they got a new water service put in for them, $6,000 value. Obviously, at $5 a month, over 20 years, it's not gonna cover it. But at least it would be some of a payback where, we're not ignoring that fact that many others have paid for their own and not gotten any assistance from the water fund or the rest of the water users. So, and I would recommend you set it at 20 years, you just set it up on the system at 20 years, and then at the end of 20 years, they stop paying it.
Okay.
And whoever lives there has gotta pay it. But I don't know exactly how we would set that up. That might need to be a future resolution, because we haven't worked that out yet, exactly how that would work. I did check today, it's easy to put it on the bill. The finance department said, yes, we can do that, and just assign an additional fee to a bill without any problem.
Okay, I'd like that, make that amendment to do that.
A lot of these places that have the lead, a lot of their older homes too, that have not been remodeled or redone. And they're also, a lot of them are seniors like myself and that have these type of homes and have just a limited income. And now you're gonna add another $5 onto them. I find it very difficult to handle right now. I mean, myself personally, I like to go, since we have to do this, let's see how this 86 cents goes, and if we need to do something later, we can do it later. I wanna do some haphazard here at the desk here, just at a whim of our time.
And I don't,
think about it a little bit better.
and I don't wanna just start pulling numbers out of the air either.
Right.
We were presented with stuff 2 weeks ago that said that, and really, if you wanna stabilize the charges and make sure that we're gonna have the cash flow you need to get your job done, this ought to all be on the ready-to-serve charge, none of it on the commodity charge, because it's a capital investment, and that's the purpose of ready-to-serve. That would be the way to get a stable cash flow on this. We put on commodity charges because people were concerned about, as Mike says, the inequity or ability of certain parties to pay that as opposed to others. But regardless, the money's going to be paid, and we have this mandate to do this. So I think we should pass this 86 cents per 1,000 gallons, because it's where we're at right now. When we set fees every year at budget time, we can change this and change it to any formula you want. And you can have time to come up with something more equitable, and we can talk about it without simply just throwing out numbers. So I think that's what we should do tonight. Not that any of us particularly want to do this, but that makes the most sense for right now, because you've come up with, this will get us started, this will get us covered, this will get your project underway. This is an unfunded mandate from the state. This is one of those things where, because the way things happen, mainly in Flint, the state has decided that we should assume every local water system, no matter how well it's been run for the past 100 years, is going to be run as incompetently as the state-appointed emergency manager did it in Flint. And so we're going to screw up just as badly, so sooner or later we're all going to be poisoned by lead. So that's a pretty ridiculous stance to take. That's where this comes from. I understand that. And it's a noble cause. Get rid of the lead lines, then you have no possibility of exposure. That's fabulous, but it's an unfunded mandate. It's going to cost our people a lot of money. And whether it really needed to be done to protect our people is a question that's not being answered or addressed. In our system here, we don't even have to put extra treatment in the water, because the alkalinity of the water and the hardness of the water naturally coats the pipes. Even if we screwed up, we couldn't get that problem. Other communities have been taking care of this in a much more cost-effective manner. But apparently now the belief is that sooner or later, some system will get screwed up by somebody, and so the lead service lines will poison another community. Okay, I get that. I understand the rationale. I understand why we're being told to do this. If we want relief from this, I think the answer is to get a hold of your legislators, or get a hold of the governor's office, or somehow and get them to revise, revisit this rule. This rule had a lot of study behind it. They came up with this. It may have been a knee-jerk reaction, but it's pretty thoroughly written into the water safety rules at the state level. So there has been talk at the legislature about setting up an assistance fund for communities that have high lead levels or a lot of difficulty doing this. This community might never see that money. I mean, But that also, those assistance funds have gone nowhere because the legislature not only can't fix the damn roads, they also can't get this kind of money pushed through to help communities satisfy a requirement that the state has put in place. So I think we're back to, we're gonna have to do this unless we can get relief from the state to either delay it, press it out, or stretch it out, or prove that there's a real necessity. And all those things are things we can work on. We can work on them over the next few years, but we've got to start now. We can change this proportion if we want. If we don't want 86 cents per thousand, we want ready to serve charge, we want to pull some arbitrary number out of the air and say some people are going to pay this and some that. We can figure that out over the next few months and put it into effect next June when we do our new budget, and we can adjust that as we need to. So, but if we go back to saying that those people with lead service lines are the ones who ought to pay, and I think we deliberately looked at this 2 weeks ago and said, this is a system-wide problem and it's a community liability, it's a community problem, and so every member of every ratepayer, every customer, everybody participating in the system is going to help pay for this problem, whether they have lead lines or not. Whether that's fair or not, it also meant that your other alternative here was an almost $28 per lead service line charge for the 1,800 lead service lines, and I believe that was every month for the next 20 years. So those people would be paying through the nose. And so we said, we're spreading this out over the entire system, so we're all in this together. So the idea that we're going to charge more for lead lines or people who just had them changed or some such number, that needs a lot of careful thought. And I think it speaks a little bit to the inequity or the difficulty of fairly doing what we're being told to do here. Mm-hmm. None of us like this. And none of us can really quite rationalize why we're doing it because of the nature of our system. We have to get started, we have to do this, and until we can get it changed, altered, alleviated, stretched out more, made to go away, whatever it has to happen, well, we have to do something here. I'm in favor of pretty much the way it is now, and then let's study it and see if we think there's a better way next year when we do our budget, and see if we can get some help from our friends in Lansing.
Mm-hmm. Before we go on, there is a motion on the table, and I'm going to second it. So Denny's motion, I'm going to second that, Linda. And I'll talk about it a few more, and we can talk about it again and probably vote it down by the sounds of it. But again, I wanted to say conceptually, we can adjust this $5 a month, as Bob noted, at a later date and time, increase it, decrease it, whatever it is in accordance with the needs of each individual water supply line that we're replacing. But I look at this a little bit like insurance. Yes, the entire community is coming together to assist in getting this done. But those people, when you've got a doctor's appointment, you go in, you have a copay, and you pay it. And that's your increased portion because you were the one who got sick. I think that analogy applies here. We've got a certain number of households that have lead lines, and we've got a certain number that have already paid $6,000 odd to do it. And I'm fine with them paying a little bit towards everybody else's to help in this community effort. But for those who have lead lines that are a known quantity, to ask them to pay $1,200 interest-free over 20 years is a heck of a deal for a brand new water line, just coming at it from a construction perspective. So I want to be fair to those people who've already gotten it done, fair to those people who don't even need it done, and shift a little bit of that cost. It is a very marginal amount. It's not even, it's 1/6 of the cost, if I think about it, over to those people that are directly impacted by it. So those are my thoughts on that one, and then we can vote on it when you guys want to.
Thank you, Josh. I think that's true. I think, that $5 a month for even 20 years is a heck of a deal for a brand new water line, all going all the way from the main all the way to their house. I think that, even if they didn't have to replace their line, to get this deal, it'd almost be worth doing it anyways. So this is, to me, it's just a no-brainer.
We're going to vote on the amendment.
Scott?
Yes.
Fritz?
No.
Manetza?
No.
Berger?
Yes.
McCaleb?
No. So there is any more discussion on the 86 cents? And if not, we can go ahead and vote on that agenda item.
Fritz,
Yes.
Manetza,
Yes.
Bruger,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
McCallum.
Yes. Next item.
Pickleball.
A little bit lighter subject.
Lighter subject, all right.
Okay, next item is to approve the North Shore Drive reconstruction contract.
Oh, never mind. Sorry, not that.
Sorry.
Where'd that come
With the Michigan Department of Transportation in the not-to-exceed amount of $1,663,764, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents. The administration recommends approval.
I think that must have been from
Was that from the last one?
Yeah, how come
Sorry.
that's not on this
I was
agenda?
gonna say,
I got trying to get everything done this morning, so sorry
We
about
had to
that.
jam those together. Yeah, we were gonna do the other North Shore.
For double, for
Sorry.
double the cost.
Got
No,
it.
no, no, no.
that was really expensive
You're right.
pickleball courts.
Okay, here it is. Sorry,
Just
didn't
take out
delete
North
that
Shore
one.
and put on pickleball.
Yeah,
600,000, is that?
1.9 million.
That's an
pickleball.
expensive.
That sounded kind of
Yeah,
familiar.
1.9 million for pickleball?
Okay.
well, that's awfully nice for you guys to
Yeah,
Donate
thank you
1.9
guys.
million?
Yeah, North Shore Drive, you know, that,
Scratch that. Starting
Oh,
over.
okay.
Okay,
Bob's out there going, what?
okay. Next item is to
Okay.
accept 2 new pickleball courts as a gift to the city from the Lakeshore Pickleball Club as outlined in the club's proposed expansion plans and conditions. The administration recommends approval.
need a motion.
So moved.
And I'll second it.
All right.
All right, well, I'll introduce the club, but as outlined in the packet, there was some conditions. This went in front of the Parks and Rec Board. They've been to you guys as the council and the Parks and Rec Board numerous times with proposals. So they finally came back with one that sounds like everybody can agree with. As staff have vetted the location and believe it's a win-win for their needs. So I will let whoever wants to get up here and speak on their behalf.
I tried to find an easel for you in the lobby, but there's a piece of artwork attached to it. And it's like bolted into it. Oh, do you have it?
We got pictures.
We got pictures.
We got pictures. All right, all right. Good deal.
We can put it on the screen
Yeah,
too.
there. That's better than
Ken.
the easel.
That's what it's gonna look like, this addition on the end.
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Thank you, sir.
I was just waiting. Pat's working on it. Oh, good job, Pat.
There we go.
Good job.
There we go. Who needs an easel when you got Pat?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, my name's Bob Helder, and I'm the president of Lakeshore Pickleball Club. And yes, we've been here just a few times. And just to give you a little brief history, 5 or 6 years ago when we started, our club just had a handful of players, and we had these beautiful courts, 6 of them, and we go, wow, this is really nice. Well, time has changed. There was a couple initiatives set by Councilman Fritz. He said, you guys got to get in the schools. Well, we do that. We're in junior high, we're in elementary. Well, then we got people, the interest. Josh got involved. I see his parents are here, they got involved. And we started new player night on Tuesday. Well, that takes up 3 courts because there's at least 12 or even more than that come to learn how to play. Well, we decided, well, how can we increase this? And we hired a firm, Niedervelt Engineering, Gord's here, and they did a study and they said, you know what? We got the perfect place. It's on the east side of the courts. It's undeveloped. What a great place to add 2 more courts. So he did the drawings for us and did a fabulous job. And we're here to get your approval. And the best part is it's not going to cost you a penny.
we're gonna do a fundraising and then pay for it and then give it to the city. As you know, we've done that in the past. We did the bleachers, we did the AED, we do the bark, we have picnic tables, we have balls, paddles, so people can come down, as the mayor did,
It was a lot of fun.
Josh did, and you get to see all these people play this fun game. And they need places to sit, so, you know, we have a $20 a year membership dues, and it goes into the kitty to pay for things just like the bark or the porta potty, just to keep the place immaculate as best we can. We get a lot of tourist people that come here now and play because it's on the web, on the USA Pickleball site. So we're excited about it. I think you guys are excited about it. I think you guys like it. Derek did a great job of helping us a little bit. And Gord's here to ask any engineering. There's a couple improvements, I think, that we're going to show you that really are going to benefit it even more. So, Gord?
Gordon Naderveld from Naderveld Engineering. Although I do play pickleball on these courts, and I'm also a tennis player, so I really appreciate Mulligan's Hollow and what it means to the community. It's an amazing place, and I want to tell you about the site, how it works. First of all, it does not adversely affect the master plan for Mulligan's Hollow at all. It's just kind of a site that's just a little area. It's flat. There's no trees on it. No trees have to be removed. And we just need a little sand fill to bring it up to the level of the existing courts and put in a drainage system that will be better than the one we have now. And as I said to the Parks and Recreations and Engineering, our firm always says there's three major concerns in development of a parcel, and that the first one is drainage, the second one is drainage, and the third one is drainage. And I know that was a concern of Derek and even Pat from the county and so forth, but we expect to improve the drainage by over 100%. And so that absolutely will not be a factor. So this should really be an asset. I want to say one thing as a player. What makes Mulligan Hollow so popular is the way the committee's set up and the way the association or the club is set up. It is probably the most friendly place to play pickleball in the entire surrounding areas. When you go to some courts and you try to play and there's already 8 guys there or 12 guys there and you can't break in. Here you can break in immediately. Everybody puts their paddles in a rack and it goes, the first 4 paddles play and the next 4 paddles play and the next 4 paddles play. So if you want to come for 15 minutes, you want to come for an hour, you want to come from 2 hours, you can do that, continuously play. And no one's going to make you just sit and not get into the game. And that's really just an amazing thing, and it's what's so attractive about Mulligan's Hollow. We added these 2 courts. We now will increase the capacity by a third, 33% more than we have right now. So that's just going to make it that much better. Also, it's a great facility in the sense there's plenty of parking. You can go to some facilities, and that's a concern. So it was wonderful that the city put that additional parking in the last couple of years. We kind of thought that might be a good place for to move some tennis courts, but I think in the long run, you made probably a wise decision. Any questions?
I look at the amount of relief that's at the end of what you're adding, and even though the drainage tile is in there to stop erosion, but I'm just wondering about, since the hill is so close to the edge, is there any plan for that or any concern for that?
Yes, but it will certainly be addressed. I can assure you there will be no drainage concerns. But we're even thinking of moving that drain as projected on there right now in between the existing courts and the new courts, right where the existing drainage course is right now. And then using that, part of that as a walkway with a trench drain on top of it. So the new courts that are on the east will drain west. The westerly courts right now are draining all east towards that ravine.
Okay.
By putting that drain between the existing courts and the new courts, we'll reverse the grade so that the new courts will flow towards that drain in between the courts.
So it won't be going down the hill?
Won't be going down the hill. And so it'd be a much better situation and absolutely no water. Right now, all the water's in the courts, all the courts that exist, tennis courts and the pickleball courts, all drain to the east to the ravine. We'll be cutting that off now.
Okay.
So then will you be putting a grate over that trench drain? Right now you just show it as a stone.
Will we be putting a grate over the trench drain? Yes.
If you're gonna move the drain into where it's paved between the courts, then you're gonna put a grate over it.
Because the tennis court, you always stand up.
You gotta come up to the
Yeah,
mic.
you gotta go to
come to the microphone if you're gonna talk.
I'm just looking at the section on the drawing here, shows it as just a stone surface on the trench drain because it's not in the paved area. But if you're gonna move it inward.
It'll be paved.
You're gonna put,
Move this drain here
You're
to
gonna-
here with a 5-foot walkway.
you're gonna put it here?
Yes.
Yes.
Because these courts
So-
here,
So when you walk on this, you don't want it to look like that. You want
no, there'll be,
There'll be asphalt
asphalt.
over time.
Yes.
You're gonna put something over this,
Yes,
and it's gonna be there.
yes, all the way down. Because right now, we catch all the water from this hill,
Mhm.
and sand flows all this way. So we're trying to stop it, and then this will flow this way, so this will become the new drain. for the whole system.
No, that's fine, it makes perfect sense. I just wanna make sure that we don't end up with a detail like that in the middle of
Oh,
your
no.
paved area.
No, no.
Gordon, you've been doing this survey thing for a little while, is that right?
Yes, yes.
I think we can establish you're an expert in it, so I'm gonna trust you on the grading.
Yes, I can assure you that there is absolutely no problem with the drainage. We're gonna make sure this works very, very well.
Yeah. Well, you guys have done a marvelous job being resilient, coming back time and again. And as I said, I think 4 years ago when I was first elected to city council, I came on as a tennis player. And today I sit here as a pickleball player, as well as a tennis player. And I just saw, I think last week we took our boys to Dick's Sporting Goods, and there is now a pickleball equipment section at Dick's Sporting Goods. So the sport has arrived, and I think it's absolutely wonderful that Grand Haven is a city that's becoming known for pickleball courts. And for you to be able to expand this way is wonderful, and to step up and to cover the financial cost, to take that burden off the community is wonderful as well. So thank you for that.
Yeah, we're kind of excited about. It's kind of hard to be excited when we're going to pay for it, but we really are excited to give you the gift of 2 pickleball courts because it means that much to us, and I think it gives an opportunity for all of the pickleball players to be part of a legacy to leave something behind for Grand Haven, and there's probably ways we can give recognition to that. But I can't say enough about the program and the committee as I've joined this about 3 years ago. It is such a friendly place to play with the opportunity to play, and you can't say enough about that opportunity to play and being left out, because some people go to a certain facility and they sit there and the people never let them in. That can't happen at Mulligan's Hollow, and that's absolutely fabulous.
When you put the rackets on the fence, it reminds me of playing billiards or pool, and you put your quarters on at least you used to. Now it's all paid by credit card, but at any rate, I like that system. So I think I was speaking with Pat earlier this morning about the need for a drinking fountain down there, and I understand that we've got a water line headed that way, and we're going to look into getting that taken care of. And that, for me, goes all the way back to my days in elementary school playing tennis. And you bring your water bottle, it makes you through the first set or the first hour of practice, but then you're pretty parched after that, and it'd be nice to be able to have a refill down there. So I hope we can look into that as well.
Be nice to partner up with a city for at least that.
You cover the $50,000 pickleball courts, and we'll get a $500 water fountain? I don't know.
Well,
We're glad
I don't
to do
think
that.
it's $500.
It's probably more than that.
There's a lot more than that.
It was
But-
my understanding that you needed a water source, not necessarily a fountain, because I think, when I think of fountain, I think of a lot of maintenance, but, right?
I
But,
don't
you
think
know,
that's
but
gonna work.
as a faucet, you can refill a water bottle and also use the water for other purposes, like you're going to clean off the courts or something, so.
Yeah, I think
yeah.
we should do that right, and make sure
Right.
it's,
You can
meets all the
incorporate
needs.
that all into your
Right,
design.
into the thing, so.
Derek maybe
I
can
don't
help
think-
us with that, or?
As long as we got all these people in the same room, you know, because I've gotten some different impressions. Do we need a water fountain or a water faucet? Both.
Yeah.
I thought that might be the answer.
Okay.
One or the other more important?
You shouldn't have asked.
If we had a water source, we take care of the fountain, it's just getting water down there. What Gordon had mentioned, our court.
Oh, hang
Come up
on,
to the
hang on.
microphone so that
'Cause,
people
yeah,
can
you
hear you.
gotta-
We're
sorry,
on the
'cause
air right now.
Erica's waving frantically at me, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm
Thanks,
Mike Zolik. I'm the past president of the Lakeshore Pickleball Club. There used to be, and I'm surprised that Josh doesn't remember this, the courts had, when they were tennis courts, we had a drinking fountain down there. And when the water department and the county changed that, they vacated that water line. There's still a pipe there. You can see it when you come down. But the water is for the fountain, but really important to clean our courts. So we still some have algae and moss on them that haven't been cleaned because you can't get a scrubber down there in any way like that. So if we got water there, access to it, we would supply the fountain and things like that, but we need water down there. That would really help. And of course, a bathroom and lighting, well, those are the things we're
Hey,
talking
nice try,
about.
Mike.
A roof in case it rains, you know,
And I want to tell you one story that happened today. A gentleman was in town on business from East Tawas, Michigan, and he looked online, and your site says that you have tennis and skateboard, and you have pickleball there. He brought his paddle, and he walked down, and he was coming in, and he said, "So what am I supposed to do?" And I said, "Well, you just put your paddle over there, and you get to play." He said, "Who do I have to pay for that?" And I said, "You don't pay anything. Just put your paddle there and play." And that's what it was, and that was, I don't know if you play with that gentleman today, he thought that was spectacular. He said, "I've gone to some places, they've asked me to join a club, they asked me for $5. There's nothing here." I said, "No, this is how it is. It's a public courts here, and you're welcome to play." It's a huge asset for this city. People come here, guests come to your park here in town, and love to play and love Mulligan's Hollow. It is a real jewel for this city, and thank you for considering this, Mayor and council members.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I just remember the time, hey, Mike, when we were sitting there on Joe's porch, and I came up to you and said, "You know, you guys really need to get involved with Nora a little bit." And I really appreciate you guys stepping forward and going forward with that. And you've been so persistent on different locations and this and that, but I think this is by far the best thing you came up with, and the Parks and Rec Board was unanimous on it. They just thought you guys, this was the cat's eye for sure. They loved it a lot. It was a unanimous vote. They said yes to it, and so I'm excited about it also myself. Because some of the other locations, they walked that whole site that one day. You guys came out there and they walked the whole site and talked about different areas in that. And by far, when you came back with this one, they were just like, they're happy. So I think this is really going to be a good addition for us. I got to say thank you. And I'm glad to see it. And I'm also glad to see you get the youth in there too now. That was one of my main thing, was I just didn't want it to being thought of as being an old person's game. You know, you can't play tennis no more, so I'll go play pickleball. No, now you got kids that can do almost anything, and you got them involved also. We went back to the schools. So I commend the whole group of you guys for doing that, so thank you very much.
All right, our boys like to go play with Grandma and Grandpa pickleball, so the kids are getting into it. And Mike, I'm going to have to talk to Chris Wilton, my tennis instructor, because I think he was holding out on us on that water. We didn't get a water break, so there you go.
I think we're ready to vote.
Manetza?
Yes.
Bruger?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Fritz?
Yes.
McCaleb?
Yes. All right, report by city council. Who wants to start?
You can clap. That's been a long journey. That's great. Well, I'll go ahead and go, I just have a quick report, a few activities this week, but most importantly coming up is the ribbon cutting for Art Walk, 6 p.m. at the Depot on Tuesday. So come on down for the great festival and the ribbon cutting. I guess it's more of an announcement than a report. That's all I've got.
All right, I got a couple of things. I went to a Michigan Municipal League Energy and Environment meeting on the 6th of September, and I brought up the Grand River Waterway, which, believe it or not, is still lingering out there. It's never gone away, even though every downstream community from Granville to Grand Haven has objected to it. And the Michigan Municipal League has never taken a stand on this. Well, it turns out there's a lot of communities that keep saying, well, let's see what the river bottom sampling looks like and see how bad it is. And
Why do we want to do that?
I don't know. This is one, and my point to the committee was, we don't really care how bad it is.
Why disturb it?
It's irrelevant how, they might find stuff, they might not. If they find stuff, you know it's bad. If they don't, you might have missed it. But there's so many other factors that are negative about this. So so Michigan Municipal League had not taken a stand on it, plus it was a done deal because it was crammed through in lame duck session when nobody was looking. So it was just part of a big appropriation bill. So it's already law. So we did vote as a committee to recommend to the MML that they take a stand and that they go to the governor and to the DEQ and to the legislature if necessary and get this thing defunded.
Absolutely.
So hopefully we've got another ally in fighting against this. So that was that. We also talked a little bit about lead and copper rule, and everybody sitting around the table commiserated about how expensive and unfair it was. And there's some new PFAS rules coming out, and we talked a little bit about that. So it was an interesting meeting, but the main thing I wanted to get was to get Michigan Municipal League aware that this thing is still out there lingering, and we want all the help we can get fighting against it. I went to the PC meeting last week, and they talked about a number of cases, and toward the end they talked more about the medical marijuana, the discussion on potential rules, and they had some maps generated by Jennifer showing statutory setbacks from schools and from the library, and excluding residential areas and including industrial and commercial areas. So they have an idea of where things can go in the city for various types of facilities, and they pretty much agreed that wherever it goes, it should be under special land use rules so that you can control placement and hours of operation, how they operate and what they look like. And the point I tried to make to the Planning Commission was that special land use rules, if they're violated, are revocable, whereas if uses by right are much harder to do anything about later if there's a problem. So that was kind of where they left it. They're still working on this. It's a big process. When I was at the MML meeting, I talked to a guy named James Godbout, who's the president of the City Council of Westland. And they're going through the same process, but they're farther along, so they probably will be adopting medical marijuana rules for their community in the next week or so, sometime probably this month. I know Grand Rapids was just in the news. They've got rules they put in place, Muskegon is too, so I think we'll be pretty well positioned to learn from the mistakes of all these other communities so we can do the least harm. As we talked, the medical marijuana stuff is something that we'll be offering to our citizens. The recreational stuff is stuff we want to approach with great caution. We're going to have to comply with state law, but also with our own community. I did participate in the American Legion 9/11 service. I thought that was very moving, very, very fitting. Appreciated the mayor's comments. It was a nice service. I participated in the torch run, except I walked, I didn't run. The torch walk, I did the torch walk, so for Special Olympics. That was fun. And I went to Salmon Fest and ate salmon and got too full. And participated in the Lighthouse event on Saturday night, which was a lot of fun. And the Lighthouse group is trying to find a way to turn the outer light into a museum, open it to the public with docents, which can be a big job, but if they get there, then that'd be great. That's the intent, and they're trying to raise money for that. Tomorrow there's going to be a meeting at the community center on high water and high lake levels. Should be interesting. Don't know if there's anything we don't already know, other than we already know that our parking lots and marinas and boat launches are all underwater. But it might be some useful information to forecast problems coming into the future and maybe see if there's any kind of help we can get to.
Is that at 10 o'clock?
I think that's at 10 o'clock at the community center. So interested parties that are available might want to stop in and see what's said there. Don't know if you'll learn a whole lot new, but it might be a good summary of options. And that's pretty much all I've got.
All righty. Nothing?
Not a thing.
Oh, well, let's see. As we just got done talking about the pickleball, I was at the Parks and Rec Board, and that was one of their main things that they had on there besides all the weddings and everything else that goes on, in our parks. But that was very good. It was a good discussion at the Parks and Rec Board. Bob was there also.
Yes, I was.
And they were really excited about it. I'm glad we passed that tonight. Then, of course, I went to the Planning Commission also. I was there for a while. Didn't stay for the whole thing, because I don't know how those guys, I think it's late enough for us right now, but you guys put a lot of hours in out there.
Those guys are troopers, I'll tell you.
They are troopers, I tell you what. But that is the heartbeat of the city. If you guys ever want to know what's going on, and if you want to be involved, if you want to be really involved and want to make some decisions, the Planning Commission is the place to be. It really is. We see it all here. They do all the hard work for us. So I was told by a friend of mine who was on there, Don Holsteg. He says, Mike, he says, if you really want to know what goes on in the city, and if you really want to be involved, he says, the Planning Commission is the place to be. So I have to agree with that statement 100%. Those people literally work their rear off. So I got to say thank you to all of them. They work so hard for it. Also, I went to the Lighthouse little get-together they had on there on Saturday night, and it was really good. It's all about the rehabilitation of the lights, the interior part of them and that, and they have an opportunity for the doors. You can buy doors, you can buy redo the portholes. We were down there, we sold 2 portholes and a door. And I was very fortunate that I had I don't know how old Sullivan was. Sullivan Spry, I don't know if you know her, but anyway, she was there. She was
9 or 10
I think about 9 or 10. Anyways, she was sitting at my table in that, and she had a blue jean jacket on because it's kind of cool. And the first thing she did, she reached in her pocket and found a $1 bill. And she goes, I want to donate this, Mr. Fritz. And I go, you do? I said, let me hear something. And Mr. Carpin, we invited her up on stage, and she gave her speech saying that, I found this $1, and didn't know I had it, but I want to donate so we can get our lighthouses fixed. And so it was quite moving. So it doesn't matter how much you have, every $1 counts. It puts us closer to the goal. So I figured if a 9 or 10-year-old can do that, why can't the rest of us? So that's basically all I got to say for now.
Yeah, we did our, of course, 9/11 service on 9/11. And our American Legion has done this annually on the morning, from 8:30 till 9-ish, every 9/11, and it never gets old to remember all those thousands of people that died, and the first responders that lost their lives. Many of them, even people that helped with looking for survivors or to clear out the thing, or now clearing out the site, are now suffering from diseases, and it's a really tough thing. But it's always very honoring to be a part of that. So I appreciate that. Did Salmon Fest, always a great time. Like I said before, to walk down our waterfront, the beauty of our waterfront, seeing all the boats in the slips along the wall. We live such a beautiful community. It just is breathtaking every time I go down there and see. It's just amazing. So it was a great Salmon Fest, very busy after last year's street construction. So this one was packed with people. Everybody's having a great time. It's again, they try to get almost zero waste out of that. Everything is recyclable. I think Marcy is in the Visitors Bureau, puts that on, is very proud of that and the way they work that out. D&W is a big sponsor of that. And the Lighthouse Committee was great to see as many people turn out for that as did. They used the tent of Salmon Fest on Saturday night, because nobody was still up, so that was a great share on their part. And just as a bit of an aside, you know, I went to Lansing last week, drove around on some of their streets, and you know, we say about some of our streets and call them goat trails. Theirs look like they've been bombed. I could not believe the size of the holes, the potholes. Lansing should not be pointing their finger at anybody else if it comes to sewage or if it comes to streets. They need to look at their own house first. So don't be, you know, putting mandates on other people on how to fix your stuff. You want to look at your own house and fix your own house, because it was appalling to see what the side streets right off the Capitol, what they look like. So take care of your own house and come back and tell us how we ought to take care of ours. 7:30 on the 30th for the relighting of the catwalk. That'll be quite the event. And to city manager's report.
Thank you, Honor. A couple of things. First off, our walk, of course, begins tomorrow. I think Josh mentioned there's going to be a reception or a big event down there tomorrow evening.
Is tomorrow evening or Tuesday evening?
Yeah,
Tomorrow
yeah,
night.
down at the depot. But their public art
Yes, tomorrow.
program are these recycle carts this year. And as you leave tonight, make sure you look out front. The city's entry is proudly displayed out in front of City Hall right now, and it is spectacular. I am so proud of the staff that put this together, and I think when you see it, you will agree that it's creative and compelling and impressive. So I'm just very excited. It's pretty cool.
All right.
You're going to be very excited. I'm very excited. And my daughter did one too. We're going to bring it down tomorrow night probably, and maybe Wednesday, because I think I still got to work on it a little more tomorrow night. But that will be fun. The North Shore project, we have an opportunity to do a little change in the schedule that I think is worth trying, but I want to get your feedback. Derek's working on it. He's in the process of working on it, and I know he's listening right now on the radio. So thank you, Eric and WAWL, that we can potentially get started this fall and leave the road gravel over the winter, which is not preferred. We don't like doing that. But if we do that, we can save 2 months next summer, and we can be done with this thing before the end of May. Otherwise, you know, right now the schedule is looking like late July, July 19th or 20th we'll be done, which is through the meat of the summer, and we're going to get lots of traffic and visitors out there. So that's the trade-off. If we'll let the contractors get going, get things torn up and start working, you know, they'll go as long as the weather lets them, but they can't get asphalt down again. You know, after the plants close in the middle of November, we're done. So it'll be tore up, but they can get some work done over the winter, and if we can shave 2 months off it next summer, you know, that's the dilemma right now, or that's the consideration, and staff at this point is very inclined to go for that. It's a safety issue during the summer months with all the traffic and people and construction equipment out there during June and July. We're very concerned about how that might go. It's of course a safety issue during the winter, but we think we can keep it in good enough shape. That road gets frozen. You know, Ferrisburg is going to be able to plow it. They do our plowing out there for us. So by all means, consider that, think about it, let me know your thoughts, but that's a very active discussion that we're having right now. Derek tells me completed by Memorial Day is what we can be done by. So I did ask his permission to bring that up tonight, because he asked me last week, and I said, that sounds pretty good. I would really like to have that done before June. And I said, can I bring it up at council? And he said, yeah, we should really get some feedback on this thing. So
Have you gotten any feedback from the people up there?
we have not. I mean, to try to make a decision in a week and ask, you know, people who live there.
Well, they're gonna live with it all winter. Those who live there will have to live with it all winter.
And those that aren't there probably wouldn't respond to us right now, but they might.
And they won't care because they won't be there, but
They won't be there during the winter, so they
there's
would.
people who live there.
They're probably glad to have it
Yeah,
like that all winter, because they're not gonna be there for one thing.
Well,
It'll be done
there's-
quicker so they can get to their houses, their summer homes.
No, there are more people that live there, again, year-round, so as long as they know, I think that would be a good thing. I'm sure that they would love to have the road done by Memorial Day rather than wait until July, if they had a choice. of driving on frozen gravel for a while. I mean, I would, but as long as they know, I think.
So what was the other plan, Pat? What was the original plan?
The original plan is to not break up the asphalt till next spring, and then start it up as early as we can in the spring, get the work done, and then get it paved next summer. So the pavement, the existing pavement out there wouldn't be taken up until spring. But now they're thinking they can, if they can get going and get this done, they can get enough out of the way that they'll be able to clean it up before Memorial Day.
So then they'll work all winter long?
To the extent they can with removals and things. There's weight laws and those sorts of things,
Right,
but
right.
it just opens it up enough for them to give them the flexibility that they can get it done that much earlier. I think we could get a quick letter out. We can, I'll talk to Derek about maybe doing a little polling. But we're bound to get some people that will say, never, I don't want to drive on gravel all winter. But it's not that bad. We did Harbor and Washington downtown, and we had those graveled for the winter, and, it's very passable. It's workable.
Yeah, the only challenge with Harbor was the drop onto the gravel from the asphalt. That much you were on it, it wasn't too bad. Would there be any cost savings to that, Pat? I remember.
Derek's checking on that. We're trying to squeeze him a little bit, because I knew you were going to ask that.
A big component was signage.
Would they break the whole road up at one time, or just part of it? You get part of the time?
They would stop working mid to late December, and they would start in early March. I think they'd take it all out, but.
Take it all out and take the whole road out from one end to the other?
Yeah, yeah. Because to try to leave one side, there wouldn't be any purpose to try to leave one side asphalt. You couldn't go both ways on that side, so I don't know what the.
Fall
Well, I just thought maybe you go so far, maybe go, I don't know, 500 feet or something.
I think it depends on what the weather's like.
Whatever,
They'll get done as much as they can, and.
Depends how far they get.
So just wanted to get, we probably aren't going to solve it tonight, but I wanted you to be aware of it, that this discussion is going to continue over the next few weeks until we get a resolution. You got that. Oh, the Army Corps meeting, thank you, Bob, for bringing that up. That's exceedingly interesting, and everybody's talking about it, and this is the lake levels. And this is the Detroit District Engineer, Keith Kompaltowitz, who is the main authority on these things. He's in charge of all the Great Lakes, and I quizzed him real quickly on the phone when I spoke with him, and he is a wealth of information. He knows where the outlets are, how they control them, what it does to which lakes, and there's not much they can do. That was the bad news, is they really can't influence it very much, but they do a pretty good job of predicting it, and he can give us some feedback on that. We've got a staff meeting right at 10 o'clock, so I'm not going to be able to make it, so I hope if you are able to make it, maybe you can fill me in a little bit. But 10 a.m., and they called me last Monday and said, would Grand Haven be interested in this presentation? So we didn't have a lot of time to do a lot of promotion, or I couldn't work my schedule around it. It was take it or leave it, and I thought, well, let's do it. And the Tribune and the WGHN and WAWL have been very helpful, helping us get the word out and talk about this thing. And then finally, throughout the month of October, we'll have town hall meetings on Wednesdays, starting on October 9th. That one's going to be at 6 p.m. at St. Pat's. And this is town hall meetings on your ballot initiative about the millage. We're also going to add in, and Mike was talking about learning about planning and knowing everything about zoning and planning about what's going on in town. We're going to work in those public input sessions on our zoning ordinance, which is currently under review, give people more of a chance, 4 more chances to come out and give their opinion on what the zoning ordinance should look like. Because as you all know, those of you who've been on since the last time we did the zoning ordinance, and we beat our heads against the wall trying to get people to come out and share with us, and we did a pretty good job. We got a lot of feedback, but sure enough, after we got it adopted, we've heard nothing but, when did this get changed, and why didn't you tell us?
Yes.
It's, well, we're really trying. We really want you to come out and participate.
I'm not sure, are we working, I think we're working on the 5-year master plan for the parks too. Do they have to have public input on that also?
That's an ongoing, we will have to have a public hearing on that as well, sure.
Can they do that also, tag on that a little bit?
We could look into that. We don't want to overdo it, but the more the better.
Well, if you have it there, you get a bigger group of people, because remember last time we had these town hall meetings, they only came for one thing. If you have more than one thing for them to come to, you might attract a larger group of people coming for each separate little area. It might be helpful. Plus, you have to have that public input anyway, so I'm not sure. Check with Derek.
And yeah, we will. We'll do the best we can. And the more, that was what I thought. Initially, I thought, man, I don't want to detract anybody's attention from the infrastructure. But then I thought, well, we're probably inclined to get bigger crowds if we open up the topics. And we're going to be at St. Pat's, at Mary White, at the Community Center, and D&W. So we've got 4 different quadrants, so it's in people's neighborhoods. And I I really hope we get significant attendance at these things, and
Is it 7 p.m.? Is that what you said?
they're gonna be at different times. The one on October 9th, 6, but we'll get a lot more, advertising out there. We're doing all we can. You know, we schedule them at different times of day too, because some people might be able to come to one at 10 a.m. and one at 6 p.m., so we tried to move them around. And it's arbitrary. You know, we did the best we can. Everybody's calendar is a little different. And finally, next Tuesday, a number of us are going to go to the Municipal League Conference in Detroit. And I'm not going to be able to leave here till later in the afternoon, it looks like. I've got a presentation on the ballot issue at Village at the Pines. Trying to get over there before the absentee ballots get out there. So I'll be there presenting on that, doing the PowerPoint presentation and answering questions, and I'll be able to leave at about 4:30 probably. So that gets us down there 5:30, 6:30, 7:30. So I guess we'll have to talk about logistics and how we're getting down there. And that's all I have, Your Honor.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, can I say one more thing? I don't have the bill number, but I was reading through some of the bills that were introduced on road funding and road regulations, and we just had this little update on North Shore adjusting schedule. One of those bills, and I don't have the bill number, I'll look it up when I get home, but one of those bills was to take flexibility away from local communities for scheduling road projects. So for example, we try to schedule our road projects to miss the summer season because we're busy. One of those bills was going to hurt our ability to do that. I'll find out what the bill, I'll find out what the bill number was and let you know, but I was scanning through these and saw that, and I thought, that's not good news.
So who is gonna mandate that then, Ben?
It'll come from the legislature.
The legislature, they know.
Yeah,
They know everything.
They know this stuff.
Fix your streets.
Instead of giving us money for it, they'll give us rules.
All right. General business, call the audience. Anybody who wants to make a comment, this is your opportunity. If nobody does, we will adjourn our meeting.